We'll cover prices on FanDuel and DraftKings as always. And before we get into Week 9, let's take a look back at Week 8. And pretty solid week for us here. Expected more out of Austin Eckler. Found the end zone. Kind of saved the day there, but he was definitely the disappointing one in the six-pack. But the Stafford to Galladay connection was great, and Tevin Coleman crushed it for us here. So a solid week, but not going to dwell on last week, the good, the bad, the ugly. We wipe that aside and we move on to Week 9. So let's keep the ball rolling here. Let's get started at the wide receiver position. A guy, there was a lot of rumors, is he going to be traded or not, but he stayed put. I think he's happy he's there. We're going to go with Robbie Anderson of the Jets. So $5,500 on DraftKings, $6,200 on FanDuel. Solid prices here for Robbie Anderson. And what's going to happen with the Jets? Le'Veon Bell going to get a ton of ownership, and I like Le'Veon Bell this week against Miami. You can fire up anybody against Miami, and he's very cheap, especially in FanDuel at $7K. But what we can do is pivot over to the passing game. And I know it's been ugly. Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. Robbie Anderson not been very consistent. A lot of weeks Jamison Crowder is their best wide receiver, but 28.7% target share for Robbie Anderson over the last month of the season. Miami, we know, struggles against wide receivers, 5th most fantasy points allowed to the position, and that was with Xavier Howard in that lineup. He was put on IR yesterday. Smash spot here. I know it's a low total, it's an ugly game, tough to swallow. There's better games to target on this slate, but I think we can mine some value here out of this game. I think we can do it with Robbie Anderson. I think hits for a big play here. I think he scores a touchdown against this Miami defense. But buy low here, good prices, and a big spot here against the Dolphins for Robbie Anderson. All right, guess what? We're going to stay in that game. I know, ugly, but I think there's value on the other side of the ball. Running back, Mark Walton. So $4,500 on DraftKings, $5,700 on FanDuel. And yes, we want to cram in McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. Absolutely. But if we need some value at the running back position, I think Mark Walton, the way to go. Has worked himself to the top of that depth chart. Kalen Ballage is just absolute garbage. I think they finally realized that. They shipped Kenyon Drake out of town. So maybe he's the last man standing. Maybe he's the best running back that they've had all along. That's yet to be seen. But has seen 6 targets in 2 of the last 3 games here, so that's encouraging, especially on DraftKings with that full-point PPR. And only the Houston Texans allowing more receptions per game to opposing running backs. So this spread very close here. Jets only 3-point favorites. Not like it's going to be a blowout here. I think Miami, whether they don't win games or not, we can debate that somewhere else. They've been competitive the last couple weeks, and I think they are here again at home. And I think the reason why is Mark Walton has a nice day and easily eclipses this salary, provides great value on these numbers here against the New York Jets. All right, let's go to the tight end position. We're going to pay up here with Hunter Henry of the Chargers. So this is the late night, the late afternoon hammer, whatever you want to call it here, but Green Bay and the Chargers should be an absolutely fun game to watch. I know the Chargers offense really been struggling, bogging down a lot, especially when they get near the red zone, but I think against this Green Bay defense, they're going to find some success here. So we have a close spread. Green Bay only 3-point favorite. One of the higher totals we have on the slate. We have a lot of low, middling totals in the mid-40s, low 40s. This one's sitting at 47. So I think it's a game we certainly want to attack here. And Green Bay's defense, much improved, no doubt. But against tight ends, they haven't exactly been great. 5th most fantasy points allowed so far to the tight end position over the first half of the season. And Hunter Henry just gets a ton of targets in this lineup. No matter who else is in the lineup, this guy is going to get the ball. We know they're going to look for him in the red zone, but averaging almost 8 targets per game since returning from his injury. You got to pay the price. I know there's some cheap tight ends that may be attractive here, but I think Hunter Henry, a great option, worth the money. Get him in those lineups this weekend against Green Bay. All right, let's go back to the running back position. Again, McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, too easy. Let's find you some alternatives to go with Mark Walton. We're going to go with Josh Jacobs of the Raiders. So the Lions, 2018, one of the best teams against the run. Once Snacks Harrison came to town, 2019, not so much. So it's a matchup we can continue to expose here. They've given up 123 or more rushing yards in 5 of the last 6 games. They've allowed the 5th most fantasy points per game to the running back position. And guess who has allowed the most receiving yards to the running back position? Yeah, that's right. The graphic says it right there. You guys are geniuses. The Detroit Lions have allowed that receiving production, and Josh Jacobs starting to get more involved as a receiver. I know they have Jalen Rashad there who gets a bulk of receiving work here, but Jacobs can get the job done. 20-plus carries should be in the cards here. The Raiders are favorites at home, so a good spot there. Josh Jacobs in a good spot overall against the Detroit Lions. All right, moving on to the wide receiver position. Let's spend some money on Chris Godwin of the Buccaneers. So definitely going to cost you $7,300 on DraftKings, $8,200 on FanDuel. Not a cheap price tag, but when you're averaging almost 11 targets per game over the last month, I want you in my lineup. Another reason why. We saw Mike Evans go nuts last week against Tennessee. We know a lot of people playing this game are new. They're going to fall into recency bias, and they're going to want to go right back to Mike Evans. So like we did with Golladay last week after the big Marvin Jones game, we're going to do the same thing here with Chris Godwin after the big Mike Evans game. And both guys are in play, no doubt. I think Evans can still have a decent game. I think both of these guys, and even stacking them together, makes a lot of sense against the secondary. But I prefer Godwin here. The Seattle secondary, not very good. 19th in DVOA against the pass. I think Chris Godwin bounces back in a big way here against the Seattle Seahawks. All right, that's 5. Let's take a look at my favorite play on the slate. But before I do that, guys, I need a couple things from you. First of all, subscribe to the channel. We want to make life easy on you here in the Fantasy Bar, and that's how we can do it. That'll let you know when the videos are coming out. Hit that little bell, be notified. We have NBA 6-packs kicking off a couple times a week. This video, the Yahoo football video, and of course, other great content from RotoGrinders that you're going to want to get access to. So, hit that subscribe, hit that bell. Also, if you enjoy your time in the Fantasy Bar, all I ask is you hit that thumbs up button. Never going to ask you for any money like a lot of people out there, a lot of sites out there begging you to send them money. No, not here in the Fantasy Bar. Just hit that thumbs up button. That's the tip jar here, guys, and I greatly appreciate it. And as a thank you, we're going to run it back again. The Beast of the Week contest, closest in fantasy points to my favorite play of the week, is going to win a free week of RotoGrinders Premium or a free RotoGrinders t-shirt. So let's go with DraftKings points this week. Get in the comment section, and whoever's closest is going to win. Who is it? Who are we guessing on? Let's take a look at my favorite play of the week. You know Mass, the Beast of the Week. All right, Beast time. We like this spot for Tampa Bay. We owe you a quarterback. We're going to go with Jameis Winston against Seattle, this week's Beast of the Week. Now, I know, Jameis Winston, it's not pretty. The turnovers, everything that comes along with this. But the numbers tend to be there no matter how ugly it is. So just don't watch the game. And at the end of the day, he's getting you there in most weeks. Over 300 yards passing in 4 of the last 5 games. That's big on DraftKings, that 300-yard bonus. Multiple touchdowns in 4 of the last 5 games. 12 total touchdown passes over his last 5. And we have the highest total on the slate, 51.5. We have a 6.5-point underdog. So Seattle most likely playing from a lead here. What does that mean? Lots of passing for Jameis Winston. And I know there's going to be a couple interceptions mixed in there. That's part of the deal. But I think he goes over 30 fantasy points here. Nobody's going to be comfortable playing him. Compare him with Godwin, who we like. You can go with Evans. Hell, you can go with both of them here in this matchup. I think Winston easily goes over 300 yards, approaches 400 yards in this game. I love this spot for Jameis Winston. Not a play for everybody, not a play for the faint of heart, but I will definitely roll him out there in some lineups. Jameis Winston, my favorite play of Week 9 in this week's Beast of the Week. All right, guys, that wraps up here in the Fantasy Bar for Week 9. Don't forget, Beast of the Week contest. Get your fantasy point guess there on DraftKings on Jameis Winston. Below the video, hit that thumbs up button, guys. And also, anything else you want to talk about, that comment section is there for you guys. You can also reach out and follow me on Twitter at BeerMakersFan. For RotoGrinders.com, I am Beer saying salut. Best of luck tonight, guys. Yahoo video will be out tomorrow, so keep an eye out on that. But appreciate you stopping by the bar, and good luck here in Week 9.
Hey, thanks for checking out our videos. If you want more expert advice on DraftKings, FanDuel, or any other daily fantasy sports, make sure you check out the current videos playlist.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday morning. It feels a little later than normal just because we have the times rolling back. But of course, it is time now. A little fantasy draft morning. I'm Eric Craig, joined by, as I am every Sunday, we got Big T, we got the Hoopster. Tony, how we doing, man?
I was doing good. I mean, I woke up, saw Hoop's beautiful face. Got me excited, a little 6 to midnight. But now I see this just terrible NHL lid on your head. And went from midnight back to 6 in a hurry.
Hey, man, this hat's comfy. Like
it better be comfy. It's a freaking NHL hat.
I'm a comfort over style kind of guy.
How you going to win on a Sunday wearing an NHL hat unless it's Granny's?
Because the NHL's the winner, man. That's just how it is. What's up, Hoop? How we doing?
Doing well. Up and at 'em.
I'm glad you joined us today. I
Yeah.
really just assumed that you were going to come up with some sort of, the London game. You were going to blame the kids on something. Oh, sorry, we're at a water park or whatever. Like, it's good to see you.
Yeah, I hit the so I don't even know where I go. Slow start this morning. Slow start. I was anticipating getting an extra hour of sleep last night. Didn't happen. Kids up early, so that means I'm up and at 'em. But yeah, so I was like, first 6 weeks, Hoop made it, then kind of fell off the last 2 out of 3. But I'm back at 'em. We're gonna go on a nice little run here of making it.
I got faith in you, and of course, we're coming over for a good old NFL slate today. We're gonna get to that here in just a second, but I got to let you guys know. I assume that you like football if you're watching the show, and I got to let you know that we are running a discount for the college football DFS package. It's available for the remainder of seasons, just $100, and that's $100 well spent because I broke even in college football yesterday, and I don't know a what thing about the sport, so I'm planning on firing the rest of the season. It includes the bowl games too, and you know that the contests across the industry, they're going to be getting big for the bowl games, so make sure you check that out. Also, FanDuel's single entry series is here. It's 4 weeks of contests left. Various entry tiers. You can play high, you can play low, you can play both, whatever. The 6 finalists at the end, they get to go to the WFFC party in Puerto Rico and play for their own prize pool. That's going to be pretty darn cool. I feel like I'm running out of time to qualify for that. I got to start firing a little bit to get to Puerto Rico. Also, in conjunction with our friends over at Vegas Insider, Sharpside app, $10,000 in total prizes for the contest going on, including weekly and half-season prizes. It's $5,000 to the winner. Download the free Sharpside app for iOS or Android and make picks for the NFL lines, the NFL totals. You can pick as many or as one as you feel like doing. It's great. You don't have to pick every game. I like to pick every game. That makes it more fun. So make sure you check that out. Also, last thing. I want to give a shout-out on air to the guys rocking the RotoGrinders Bab, Hershey 122, Creighton 3, and M. Pimpton 4. I don't know how I feel about reading this Creighton 3 thing. I was not a fan of the old Creighton basketball team back in the day, but they're over to a new conference. No longer torturing my Salukis in the Missouri Valley Conference. So, Tony, how you feeling about the slate, man?
I mean, I'm feeling great. I like this slate. I think it kind of reminds me of the old school, like 2 or 3 years ago, when these running backs, you would just jam these like high-priced guys like McCaffrey and Cook today. We got a good value with them. No one's going to play these guys, I don't think, together, maybe in cash. I want to hear what Hoop says about this because this reminds me of the good days when I would just play these guys and kind of figure out receiver after that, take your 30 points or whatever they get you and have a big leg up on all the people that bust at certain spots. Maybe you hit receiver and really have a huge day, but I want to hear what Hoop thinks about McCaffrey and Cook.
Yeah, so I agree. Like I definitely like that route. Where I don't agree is where it's going to be contrarian. I think it's going to be pretty popular for one main reason.
To play both of them?
Yeah, not popular, but I think more than you're thinking for one main reason. That's wide receiver is pretty weak. I mean, there's not really, a wide receiver to pay up for. A couple of them are off the slate, have some injuries. So I think a lot of people are going to be mid-tier to cheap at wide receiver, which naturally will make those high-end running backs pretty popular. I do think McCaffrey will be way more popular than Cook. So, I mean, if you're playing one of them, I think that's not a bad pivot point right there.
So you don't think the 10K is scaring people away?
No. I mean, just because of the way the slate is. I mean, it's you have some cheap tight ends, you have some cheap wide receivers, And there's honestly not really a high-end wide receiver to pay up for, or a high-end wide receiver that you'd feel comfortable paying up for. So I think that'll just naturally drive ownership to those high-end running backs.
You guys are making me excited about this slate because I like Dalvin, I like McCaffrey, but I'm struggling to get him in my lineups. I'm actually paying up at wide receiver in a few spots. So it'll be interesting to see. And I'm glad that that's a more contrarian approach because I was terrified that I was going to be on a few guys that were just too chalky, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. Let's go ahead and kick it off with the Jets of the Dolphins. And Tony, you know where I'm going with this, man. It's important.
You guys got jokes on Twitter together. You guys are too funny.
Well,
today's the day, though. Today's the day. This game's shooting out, baby.
All right, Tony, I'll let you talk about.
I might get my first windmill of the year for this game today. Like all these guys are. We just talked about it. So I feel great about the week. I'm planning on jamming these running backs. I mean, at the very, very least, I'm playing McCaffrey and Chubb or Lev or these guys. I mean, if I don't play Cook, I'm for sure jamming two of those guys. So I need to save a receiver, like Hoop kind of said. And all these receivers in this game just look so tasty to me. First of all, I think on a site like DraftKings, Robbie Anderson and Crowder are priced up a little bit. Same with Darnold. But that makes me like the stack even more because I don't think anyone's really going to play these Jets guys all that much just because they're actually they should be like in maybe the 4Ks in there, and they're in the 5Ks, which makes me like it. And then obviously I like my Miami guys, Preston every week, Devontae every week.
We're shocked.
Of course
me and Crane are shocked.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I'm going to like this game. It fits so perfect with my roster construction this week. I like it. I think it's the winner this week.
Tony, we got to talk, man. We just got to have a discussion. And I'm just a little uncomfortable saying this to you about this game. I'm with you, baby. I love this game. I love this game. I love Le'Veon Bell. He's one of my favorite plays on the whole slate. You mentioned Robbie. I'm throbby for Robbie. You mentioned the passing game with Fitzpatrick.
What'd you say?
Throbby for Robbie, man.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, I'm here for you.
Throbby for Robbie?
Yeah, Fitzpatrick, a guy who loves to air it out deep against a team that can't stop the deep ball. I like Devontae Parker. I don't think I've played Devontae Parker in 3 years. I'm here for you. Preston Williams, I like him. Make it 3 for 3, baby.
Well, it's funny. I don't mind the spot, and I mean I'm not throbbing down low for the spot like you guys are. But it's funny though. The one guy that I like maybe the most, you guys didn't even mention.
Who the hell are you talking about?
Alton?
Demaryius Thomas.
Oh God!
They are like forcing him. They are like forcing him the ball.
Throbby for Robbie. I played Demaryius a few weeks, but God, he's bad.
Yeah, but they're like literally like forcing him the football like a ton. At least they was against the Patriots. Maybe I'm just
they've kind of given him a bunch of looks all year.
And he's only 4K. Like he's the cheapest out of all of them. But I agree. Like I'm buying the Le'Veon Bell squeaky wheel narrative this week. Like they have to get him involved. It's a perfect spot. Like James, was that last week when Connor was just getting 25 yards at a time? Just these massive holes that Big T and Crane could hit. Like. Dude, and this is just like a perfect spot for him. Like I said, I'm buying the narrative.
Was Crane wearing the Elvis outfit going through the hole or just normal clothing?
Yeah, that was not my finest costume ever.
Elvis, for sure. The problem I have here, I just don't – the Dolphins don't want to win, and this is a game that they could potentially win. It just scares me with the Dolphins. Like they're clearly trying to go 0-16, and I don't know. It to me, it's risky. I like the Jets side quite a bit. I think the Jets pound them in this game, so I'm not overly excited about the Dolphins.
Why does everyone always want to take Miami too? Like Miami's like the trendy pick.
I don't get it.
Not talking DFS, like just picks.
Yeah, like people. Yeah, like they're always the trendy pick. Like they don't want to win. Like why would you put money on a team that literally is trying to lose football games?
It's funny too because they always play a pretty good first half. Like I think they're always a good first half bet.
Yes,
and they always just stop playing and get killed.
I mean, it feeds right into that narrative. Like they literally don't want to win football games. Like I don't care what anyone says. They have no interest in winning.
Yeah, how weird is it going to be when we see the Fitzpatrick to Devontae Parker combination win $1 million today?
I mean, it's going to feel pretty good if they do, because I'm going to have a chance to win some cheese.
All right, let's move on to a game that even Tony can't love. It's Washington at Buffalo, 36.5-point total. Buffalo, 11-point favorites at home. And Tony, can you find me anything to like in this game?
Just the same thing I say every week with Buffalo. I mean, you can always play Allen to John Brown. No one's going to play John Brown because his price, but he's a deep threat against Washington. So, I mean, I'm not going to play him if I have one team, I'll tell you that much. But if I play 150 teams in these Millie Maker type contests, I'm never fading John Brown completely, because 2 plays to the house and he's a slate breaker. So I think you always need to have him in your player pool. And I don't hate Singletary and the Bills D on a team too. So I don't know. I don't hate Buffalo as much, but I'm definitely not playing any Washington guys.
Yeah, it's weird with Singletary. Like last week, only 3 carries for 19 yards. He did see 6 targets in the passing game. I don't expect him to be passing a ton here. I want to like Singletary, especially at that price tag. I'm just not so sure I can. Hoop, what do we think about Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, their defense obviously is a great play at home against Haskins is starting this time around. It doesn't really freaking matter. Low total, they're big favorites. Should pound him here. I don't know. The running back situation's frustrating. I mean, Frank Gore's going to be involved. Singletary, they're hesitant to give him the full workload. I have to mention my boy Cole Beasley, because I do it every week, and you guys make fun of me every week. So just something that has to happen. And then John Brown as well. I mean, he's such a deep threat, I think, and play virtually every week, and he could easily get loose here in against this Redskins secondary. But Allen hasn't been throwing the deep ball, so there's a little bit of risk, but still a good play.
The nice thing about Cole Beasley is he's getting that red zone work. He's had touchdowns the last 2 weeks, and despite that, you know how many points he has the last 2 weeks?
Who?
Cole Beasley. He has touchdowns in 2 straight weeks.
Yeah.
All right. He has under 21 points total in 2 straight weeks. So,
sorry, didn't hit your 37.9x threshold. Maybe next time.
No, he didn't even 3.7 x minute. Oh, yeah.
Cole Beasley is a poor man's Preston Williams.
They both suck.
Don't insult Cole like that.
The funny thing is, if I showed you their box scores, like all the way, you wouldn't know which one was which. It's like the Spider-Man gif. They both score like 10 every week, never 15 and never 5 hardly. Like
don't play Cole Beasley. You don't play, especially in tournaments. Don't be playing no Cole Beasley.
I should talk up the website too. I used to always have to click somewhere else for like a player card to see. Like I'd always click DraftKings or wherever to see the new HQ where you click the name. Like when I just click Cole Beasley on the lineup HQ, it gives you such a nice clean layout of the prices, and it's a nice little pub if you're using HQ out there.
Yeah, even on the it's just a much cleaner look. So whoever was doing that,
you can see all the prices too, which I like to see, like DK, FanDuel, FantasyDraft, all in one little spot right there.
All right, let's talk Titans at Panthers, 42.5-point total. The Panthers 3.5-point favorites at home, and we touched on it at the beginning of the show. Hoop, do you like Christian McCaffrey today?
Oh yeah, I mean obviously, and DraftKings Fantasy Draft, they got the price up there. I don't think it's going to stop people from playing them this week. I think the biggest reason is what we saw last week against the 49ers. I mean, they got absolutely trucked, and this dude still breaks a 40-yard touchdown run, over 30 fantasy points. Just such a safe play. He'll be super popular, and he's a very, very risky fade. I mean, he's doing it. I mean, he's doing it all facets of the game. He's on the field the entire game, never comes off. The rushing touchdowns, the reception, just so many outs for him to have a big game that it's tough to fade. It'll be the most popular running back today. No. He won't be the most popular running back today. There's one guy we'll get to, but he'll be very popular and rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a stat the other day where he's on pace to have the second best fantasy season ever behind one of LaDainian Tomlinson's seasons. I mean, if you're fading McCaffrey, I mean, you're being brave. He's not on my main team right now, which is a little bit terrifying. But, the 10K price tag, it is prohibitive. But I know, Tony, you're planning on just jamming him everywhere, right?
It's just when you fade this guy, which I've done a few times this year.
It hurts.
And you see him get in that open field and just take off. Like, it's not a good feeling because This guy's got power, speed. He's just got it all. He's facing Tennessee, who I mean, again, I'm not the biggest stat guy like I always say, but I think that I heard they're one of the worst teams against running backs that catch the ball out of the backfield. Even if say he does bust, he's still going to get you a number that I'm okay with. I mean, what's the worst he's going to get? 20 outside of injury? Like 20 ain't going to kill me. I know I want more for sure. Yeah. I want the 37X, but I'll take the high floor, the high ceiling. I mean, I'm good with it.
No, I agree with you. I mean, the floor is just so incredibly high, and I think you put it well there. I mean, it's, the worst case scenario is 20. Yeah, I mean, that's not the greatest, but you can live with it. You can still win some stuff if he gets 20. Yeah,
and Jennison in the chat, he brings up a good point too. No Jarrell Casey, who's the best defensive run stopper for the Titans, and he's out today. So yeah.
Was Carolina off last week, or did they play?
They played the Niners. Remember, they got smoked.
Yeah, that's why I thought they were off. They got just whacked.
Oh, they got worked.
I mean, they kind of took the week off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Oh, they were off 2 weeks ago. So they were off on a bye and then got waxed like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I've heard a lot of talk over the last few days about this Carolina passing game. People want to play DJ Moore. People want to play Curtis Samuel. I understand that we are void of value on this slate. Not a ton of value out there. Tony, are you willing to play the Carolina passing guys?
I've kind of made fun of these guys since the offseason where they were like the trendy Randy Moss plays of the year. Like everybody thought they were just the sweetest things ever. They're fine. I mean, they're in this range. Again, this is why I want to jam the running backs, because every running back or every receiver, it feels like, is between like 4K and like 5,500 type thing, where just everybody's in that cheap range. So I'm okay with it. I mean, if you're playing McCaffrey and you want to run it back with someone, I mean, they're cheap, so whatever. Like, they're not my favorite, but I don't mind it as the last piece type thing.
You're killing me in the chat, man. Killing me in the chat. Tony, do you have the chat up?
I don't have it up. I mean,
you're missing out on a.
Yeah, you got to get in there.
It's a special day.
You actually enjoy it.
Yeah, I know. Really.
We might get an early windmill if he reads the chat.
It is funny. Like, every host gets trolled on here except for Tony, and they just talk about Tony. All the chat just talks about Tony's third leg. It's amazing.
The truth.
I have a guy on Tennessee that I like quite a bit, and you guys are both going to hate him. Like, I know you guys are going to.
Oh God, is it that one dude? The tight end you gave us the 1 week that got a donut?
Donut Smith scored like 20
no,
points.
No, not Johnu. The dude I've never heard of in my life. Who was that guy?
Oh, no, definitely not. I like
what was that dude's name?
I don't even remember anymore. He's texting
me. Who was that guy? I'm trying to think.
I know who you're talking about.
I think he got a touchdown the week after.
Of course.
Are you in this chat, Tony, or no?
I got to pull it up.
You're too late. You're going to miss it all. It's over now.
Anyways, you guys were just talking about how Carolina just got torched by San Francisco on the ground. And Carolina, if you look at DVO rankings, they have the absolute worst DVOA against running backs in the league. And yet Derrick Henry is priced under 6K.
Oh, God. You're fading Christian McCaffrey and you're playing Derrick Henry?
I'm not fading Christian McCaffrey, but I'm saying that Derrick Henry's 5.7K and he's got the best matchup for running back in the league.
I was trying to pull up the chat, and then you just you made me puke.
In my mouth. Like you don't hate it. Hoof's got that look like he's like, yeah.
No, he hates Derrick Henry. I promise you. I promise.
That's a name I haven't clicked all season. And I mean, he's had a good season, so maybe it's not the right move, but so many dudes at running back. I mean, there's just so many guys. I mean, talked about Le'Veon Bell, McCaffrey, Cook, even like Aaron Jones. I don't know. Like I'm not going there. Their team total's under 20, hovering right around 20. But he's had a good season.
Derrick Henry.
He's got. I mean, in his defense, he's got three touchdown upside anytime he takes the field, and you need that though because he's not.
His freaking 3 touchdown games are so tilting too, because it's always like just.
They're not going to be tilting for me today, buddy.
You're seriously playing Derrick Henry on this slate?
Yes. I think he goes for like 25 points. I really think he's just going to crush it. I really do. Oh, look. I've heard Tony. I've heard the
You've broken him. You've broken JT.
Of all the shit you give me for Miami, and you're on this slate, you're talking up Derrick Henry. Oh, my. There's like 5 just incredible running backs.
Well, I mean, that actually, you know what that is? That's actually, now that I think about it, that's even worse than I thought because you have one guy that's just a stone lock at running back. Like, you have to play Jalen Samuels. So you already got one spot filled.
And you have to play one of the studs, so like
that's worse than I thought. I'm sorry. I tried clearing a path for your play, but I retract that.
Oh man! All right, fine. I mean, it's the worst run defense in the league, and nobody's going to play a running back that's going to get over 20 carries. I don't get why.
I mean, because he's slower than me.
That's okay.
He's terrible.
I'm fine with that. We're all going to play Jalen Samuels. We like bad football players. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. All right, let's move on to Minnesota.
If you're going to play Henry, seriously play him over Samuels. Like, that's the only way you should play Henry. And just hope Samuels, like, gets hurt or something.
Play them both. I can play them both. Look at Tony.
I mean, I'll be stunned if you win today with Derrick Henry. Put it that way.
All right, that's fair enough. All right,
Minnesota. You can take your victory lap on me on Twitter.
I mean, if I'm taking a victory lap, we've had this discussion. I better either 20x my money or have six figures up first.
Then I hope you take a victory lap.
I don't want to see any other victory laps out there goes. 20x your buy-ins or 100K. That's the rules. All right, Minnesota at Kansas City, 46.5 point total. Minnesota 4-point favorites at home. And, you know, Hoop, we were talking about Christian McCaffrey. Dalvin Cook's right up there with him as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he's had a phenomenal season, and you know, a lot of people were on it prior to the season, and I don't think anyone thought it would be as good as it's been. I mean, he's been phenomenal, so steady every single week. He's been, you know, right there with McCaffrey a lot of weeks, and you know, that's why I really like what Tony was talking about early on. You know, playing both these guys. It's not going to be super, super popular, but, you know, it's a lot easier this week than it's been because we're not looking at any of these top. There's just the slate's void of top-tier wide receivers. So I think people will do it, but I like it. It's a great matchup, too, against the Chiefs. They're favorites here. And just watching this Chiefs run defense, like, dudes are going like 5 or 6 yards before they're getting touched. And Cook is, like I said, phenomenal season, active in the passing game, just really, really safe, like matchup proof. And this is a good matchup, so really like Cook. I think he's phenomenal play today.
Yeah, like I look at the guy here, and I really do think he's just as good as McCaffrey this week. Tony, I know you like McCaffrey a little bit more, but you're planning on jamming both these guys in, right?
I'm for sure jamming McCaffrey, I think. I'm not 100% on Cook too, just because my problem with Cook isn't that I don't love him. I just love Chubb and Bell too. So, like, I love those top. That's why I can't imagine playing anyone but those guys because they're just so elite today that I think they all crush. And I'm for sure playing two top backs and Samuels. So it's pretty clear.
And everybody else.
That's fine. I mean, I'll be different at a receiver where there's actually variance, not running back where there is no variance.
He's just taking like that's subtle digs at me.
No, it's not subtle. I told
it's you. Not subtle.
I flat out said it. That's not subtle.
These receivers, I've heard some talk about stuff on Diggs again this week. Look, these guys are fine every week. I'm not sure I'm going to land on them this week. Cooper, are you playing this passing game at all?
The Vikings?
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably not. I mean, they're in play. I mean, I think there is a path to this game shooting out. I mean, Matt Moore actually looked pretty solid in his start last week. So they were able to move. Who'd they play? The Packers, right?
The Packers, man. I've moved
Packers, on. Right? Tony, Packers, Chiefs last week.
Yeah, busy talking to D. Kender in the chat here. I mean, this guy's calling me out. D. Kender. He said it's a Big T throw. Hoop would love. Is this Hoop's bot account? He throws his weight around in the post and fouls out in 3 minutes.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I mean that's actually a pretty good analysis.
Has anyone ever seen Hoop and D. Kender in the same place?
If you want to, Tony plays basketball. He's like a white Rasheed Wallace. That's how he plays.
Not anymore. And plus, the people like to reference his high school stats. Do they realize he played high school basketball? And there's like 20 kids in the entire school district that play basketball, and Tony was one of them. Like, of course, you're gonna have good stats. Like,
Tony, you literally would
crazy.
Like all world if you had played where I played, like in my district where I grew up. Like you got like the shortest, whitest dudes there doing.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing Tony had. I mean, there's no difference.
One of these days, Hoop.
There's no difference.
Time and there'll be no more talk.
I had 20 kids within 30 square miles that played basketball. And Tony was one of them.
To be fair, Hoop, we all know that you're not going to show up if we.
Oh, exactly. So I have to be careful what I say.
I mean, I didn't realize there was 20 kids in the middle of Denver. Like, I thought Denver was a big city.
Well, now it's booming now. Back then, though, it was a little town. Little town Tony. Is there anyone over? Do you play against anyone over 6 foot?
Okay.
Guess we'll find out.
You're talking about Matt Moore a little bit, and he looked good. Let's pump the brakes on that. He's still Matt Moore. This Chiefs side, though, I never want to play these running backs. The receivers, of course.
Yeah, CSU finally backing me up. It was like a D2A high school, like Division 4. Man, easy pickings.
What does Division 4 even mean?
No, I mean, it's just like I said, about 20 kids in the area playing basketball.
We can set it up, Hoop, whatever.
Tony's playing in, like, the church league.
You guys like the Chiefs at all? I like Matt Moore a little bit. You guys like him?
No.
Tony?
I gave Matt Moore last week a shot, and he was
did
okay.
well.
I know, but that was with 2 weeks off. It was Minnesota's D. I just don't like playing guys against Minnesota's D. They always freaking play good. I don't know. Like, I never hate Kansas City.
Yeah.
Like, what about Travis Kelce? Because I get the feeling he's not going to be overly popular this year. He screwed a lot of people because he just never really seems to have that huge game. And yet here we are in a slate that's void of stud tight ends. Nobody wants to pay up for tight end. Tony, I feel like Kelce could be like a really good contrarian option in tournaments today.
Who?
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce.
I'm too busy talking trash here.
He's completely checked out. Hoop, what do you think about Travis Kelce?
I'm definitely not playing Kelce. Like, there's no way I'm playing Kelce.
He's in the chat trying to defend his crappy performance at the RotoGrinders party. That was on camera when he couldn't get a bucket against the RG employees. I
didn't lose a game.
Hey, those rims were
carried.
Tight.
You got carried.
By who?
Whoever scored, because you didn't.
Mangone scored?
I said whoever scored, because you sure as hell didn't.
Did Bobby Fye carry me?
Hey,
Someone did.
What are you talking about? I was
Crane carried you.
No. Crane wasn't on my team.
Someone did. Because you didn't put the ball in the bucket.
Wow, am I just that invisible out there? You guys don't even know. You guys just
look at that disrespect. Look at that.
He wasn't on my team. No way.
We wore the same jersey, man. We were the same. I thought we had a bond.
Same sweat and tears. Man, that's painful.
All right, y'all do the show your damn selves. All right, Tony hates Kelce. Hoop, I know you like Kelce a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, good tournament play. Like, I don't think people will be on him. Finally got in the box with Moore last week. It was long touchdown. So I think I kind of like the Chiefs a little bit. Their passing game. I mean, he's going to have his full complement of weapons here. A lot of speedsters. They can break plays. So I like the Chiefs a little bit here.
All right, are you playing some Tyreek Hill too?
I'm interested in tournaments. Yes.
Yeah, Tony, who do you like on this Chiefs? I assume we're not going back to Sammy Watkins ever again.
I mean, he's another one of these receivers that's in that range, in that mid range.
We are supposed to play Sammy Watkins at low ownership at under 5K.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. That's a great point, I think, is this is when you want to play him. And this is the kind of my build I want today. I want to jam these running backs that are locks. And maybe I hit on a Sammy Watkins, catch 2 touchdowns, and I win a tournament because of a random Sammy Watkins game. Like, I want to take chances on these cheaper receivers, and I think Sammy Watkins is good. I mean, Tyreek Hill is way expensive, so no one's going to play him too. So maybe I like Kansas City more than I initially thought, just because the upside and how low owned they're going to be.
All right, Bears at the Eagles. God, we just spent so much time on that game, and we barely talked about the game. 41.5 point total. Philly 4-point favorites at home. Hoop, I never really want to play any of these Eagles guys. I know Zach Ertz is going to get some ownership this week, even though he hasn't done anything all year. What are you doing about this Eagles team?
Yeah, they're a tough team. I mean, they just have so many weapons now. They get Deshaun Jackson back, Alshon, Ertz, Goddard's been good. They have like 30 running backs they use. It's a tough situation. I could never pay like full price for any of these guys. That's why I think Ertz is interesting on DK. The price came down quite a bit. The problem I have here, I think the Eagles absolutely dust the Bears. So I don't know if this will be, much of an offensive explosion for them. They're just such a better team. I think they start rolling here in general. So I really like the Eagles minus that 4 today for DFS. Like I said, just a tough game. I know a lot of people are interested in Allen Robinson. Like, I just don't want to play a wide receiver that has Mitchell Trubisky throwing him the football. Like, Trubisky is a disaster. I know the matchup's good on paper, but I'm off the Bears. Not a ton of interest in the Eagles. Like I said, I think the Eagles dominate here.
Yeah, you mentioned Allen Robinson. I mean, it is a great match, but I understand the concerns with Mitch Trubisky still. They're going to have to put up yards at some point, I think. I mean, where else is it going to go? It's not going to go to Trey Burton. David Montgomery's going to be running into a wall all game. I like Allen Robinson today. Tony, what do you think about the Eagles team? Are you on Allen Robinson? What do you think about this game?
Yeah, Allen Robinson's another play kind of like these Chiefs guys where he's priced up a little bit in that range where it's tough to get him if you're playing the good running backs, and that makes him a good play to me. So I think he's a good tournament play, and Ertz is going to be one of the I guarantee Hoop likes him in cash. He has to, because I think Ertz is going to be – he's been terrible all year, but he's just so cheap that he's got to be a good cash play. At least I think. Hoop, is he not who you like in cash?
I do. I mean, yeah, I like that price break. I mean, I don't know. It is kind of a tough situation with Goddard being more involved, but with Deshaun back, I think that could potentially help Ertz a little bit. Goddard might be off the field a little bit more. But the price on him, and I like on DraftKings, he's 4.7K. I do like him quite a bit. Yeah.
I like Gabriel too as like a one of those cheaper guys that fits with the running backs. What has he done? What's he done since that big game? He's been hurt, right? No.
Yeah, I mean, last week he had 6 targets, 7 points. I don't mind Gabriel. I think Gabriel's fine.
4 for 53, and now he gets the Eagles. I like Gabriel as a sneaky little play today.
Yeah, I mean, he's cheap enough to where I'd be willing to take a shot on him. I don't mind that at all. That's a good call. Colts at Steelers, 40-point total. Steelers 1-point favorite. And hey guys, are we playing Jalen Samuels today? He's 4K. He's the only value running back worth anything on this slate, and everybody's going to play Jalen Samuels. I'm not sure I've seen a projected ownership this high. Tony, do you see the projected ownership on Samuels?
I don't have it up right in front of me, but I'm sure he's going to be 70% owned. I don't know. He's got to be.
It's projected at 62 right now, and I think it's going to be over that. Tony, we always talk about these spots. We're either going way overweight or way underweight. This feels like a way overweight spot to me.
Why do we do that too? And I always do it. It's probably a leak I have, a big leak, because why do we have to go all in or fold? Like, why do we do that?
Because you want to take a stand one way or the other.
I know. I always do it, but is it right? Like, I think I heard Levitan or someone talking about it this week. Like, he said sometimes he goes just with the field. If it's like a mega chalk guy, why can't I just play like 70% and be happy with it?
That's fine.
Yeah, I kind of disagree when you're talking about ownership this high, because I mean, he's going to be like 60, 70% like owned. So like, what are your other 30%? Let's say he does potentially bust, okay, and you don't have 30% of your lineups or whatever don't have him in there. Like, I don't know. To me, To me, it doesn't make sense. Like, especially when it's this
on those 30%, right?
Yeah, but maybe. I mean, maybe you got to hit it. I guess it depends on like what sort of tournaments and stuff that you're playing and whatnot. But like, to me, when it's this high, I think you just hit the lock button. But if you're talking someone like 40%, like, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Where you don't necessarily.
What you get from fading is my issue. Like,
you get a loss. That's what you get.
It's just outside of injury. I mean, like we talked about, I forget who we were talking. Oh, McCaffrey, where we said 20. Like, if he doesn't get hurt, he's going to get you double digits. And like, say he gets you 12. That's not ending your week if he's 70% owned. Like, you can still win. You can win whatever still.
Oh, and you're talking about like a dynamic player. You're not talking about a guy that's just going to get 15 rushes. Like, he's going to catch the ball.
You're not talking about Derrick Henry.
You're not talking about a Derrick Henry type player. You're talking a guy that they've lined up in the Wildcat. He got that 1 week he had like 4 completions because they're doing the thing where they're shoveling it to the wide receiver coming across. Like, he's a super dynamic player. The probability of him busting here is, I'd say, really low.
Yeah, I will say, and I never say this because I always like to make fun of Bus Bro in the chat, but he says that he hasn't played in a month, and that's true. I think that's a concern a little bit that he hasn't played football in a month.
But then they don't have anyone, right? Like who's the backup?
Trey Edmonds.
So if you're fading Samuels, do you play Edmonds?
I doubt
I haven't even thought about it till like literally right now. But like, if you did, would you play Edmonds? Like an injury or whatever reason you're fading Samuels.
I mean, maybe. Like, I don't think I'm gonna. That's a little cute for me. But I see what you're saying. God,
if Trey Edmonds is your backup, like you're not busting outside of injury. Even if Pittsburgh doesn't score, he's gonna catch what? 4 balls. I mean, he's gonna.
Balls, yeah, either way.
Yeah, like that's decent points. I don't. It's like what do we expect when we play a 4K receiver? Like we're happy with. I mean, we want a big game. Again, we always want a big game, but you're not mad if he gets you 12. Like you're fine. It's whatever. Like it doesn't kill your week.
You can win $1 million if he gets 12 today.
Yeah, easily.
You absolutely can.
And when he gets like 20, you have no chance without him. Like you're not going to win with that.
Unless you have like 3 running backs that are all going for over 35. Like that's the path right there.
That is a path that you could do too. Is if you're fading him, play 3 of the stud running backs and just do the same thing and hope you just bink something. Like maybe they all go for, if you play 3 running backs and they all go for 30 plus, and you somehow bank your receivers, then you could beat a Samuels team. But
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. But as far as an optimal build goes, no, you got to play Samuels today. Other guys in this game, the Pittsburgh passing attack, I don't have a ton of interest in. Hoop, do you?
Yeah. I mean, I like Juju quite a bit. He has a nice price tag on DraftKings and FantasyDraft, and then the other guy who actually I like a lot, another cheap wide receiver to throw in the mix. Deontay Johnson, like he's been solid.
He's balling, man.
Yeah, and they're looking to him quite a bit. So I really like him as a cheap wide receiver. That's probably about it. Jack Doyle on the other side, I know is going to have some ownership at like what's his price tag? Yeah, super cheap.
He's cheap.
I haven't been messing with these Colts wide receivers. When T.Y. Hilton's out, it seems like they're just cycling them in and out. There's no consistency to it, so I'll be off all those guys. But Doyle's interesting, and then I like Juju and Deontay Johnson quite a bit.
Yeah, outside of Jack Doyle, Eric Ebron, I have no interest in these Colts guys. Tony, do you?
I mean, I'm too happy that Empire said Hoops on 3 bad bets today. That makes me feel great.
Listen. You know, I'm always going to be on 3 bad bets. But it's just amazing how when it's all said and done, I'm sitting at about 65, 70%.
Oh, we're down to 65. We're trending.
65, 70.
Usually it's an automatic. We're at 70. Today it was 65, 70.
I don't have to get in there. No.
What was the question?
You got to defend.
He didn't say which 3 were the bad ones, though. So you got to guess which 3 were the bad ones.
That's
probably we have 2 the same, so I'm sure that the 3 bad ones.
It's the other 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be.
All right, let's talk Tampa and Seattle. 52.5 point total. Seattle 4.5 point favorites, and this is when the slate starts to get fun because we're gonna have some shootouts this afternoon. And this is one of the slates where if you're winning money early, don't be feeling good about it. Tony, it's really tough to.
It's kind of a weird slate too. Before we hop into this, like it feels like all the values early and like the good plays are late. So like you kind of hope all your value guys get there in the morning. And then you get a root on all the good plays late. Like, can't you see it being one of those weeks where all the value guys smash early and you're like all excited, and then these late games somehow bust? And
they're just duds, and next thing you know, like Zach Pascal's on the winner. Yeah, that's just
I just feels like that. I shouldn't say that because everyone's playing all these late guys, which I am too because you have to. But it just seems like one of those weeks, and then our Jets Miami game ships all the cheese.
Woo! Yeah, Devontae Parker, FCN.
But yeah, this Seattle Tampa game. I mean, it's one of those games where basically everyone's a good play. I mean, you got the Seattle side. Actually, Carson, I take that back. Carson, there's no way I'm playing him against Tampa with all these good running backs.
You know, Hoop likes him though.
He doesn't like Carson today. No way. Not with all these other guys. No, there's no. I know.
Yes or no? Hoop, do you like Carson?
I know.
No, I mean this is like the one spot. I mean this Bucks run defense is like elite.
I thought you were going to like the guy that gets 25 carries.
Yeah, I mean, I
Hoop
usually
is so
do,
predictable. He always just likes the best plays. Like he's never going to like Carson.
If Hoop is so
Well, then you guys are
Hoop
going to
wins all the money. Why aren't we just doing what Hoop does?
Because we don't know who the best plays are like he does.
Yeah, right. You guys are going to be surprised, though. You're going to be surprised at this game, my take on this game.
All right, let's hear it.
I don't like the game as all that much, to be honest with you.
So you like my theory that these late games are just going to bust on us?
I just don't like the. I don't know. Like, okay, I'm thinking about how this game could go down in my head and how Seattle likes to win games. Like, they like to get a lead. They like to establish the run. So first off, I could see them spending their first couple drives jamming it endlessly with Chris Carson, which would essentially be the end of the first quarter.
2 yards of carry, baby.
Yeah, like they're just, I don't know. I just could see them doing that. And then you have the other side. Okay, let's say they do get out to a lead. You know what they like to do when they get the lead? They like to go ahead and, run the ball, grind out the clock, keep the ball in bounds. I could just see this at the end of the, yes, I do think Seattle scores here. I'm not saying it's going to be a 7-3 game. I could see this being a 24-10 game. The Seahawks win 24-10 in the fourth quarter. They're just kind of running out the clock. They're a team that, if they have a big lead, they really don't, keep their foot on the pedal and run up the score much. Game scares me. I mean, obviously, yes, it has shootout potential. The total's sitting at 53, a relatively close spread. But I'm a lot lower on this game than a lot of people for those reasons.
Yeah, Tony, you and I spent some time this week talking about this game on X, and we both sort of had the same take that if Tampa somehow gets out to a 2-touchdown lead here, good luck fading the Seattle side because Russ, Lockett, and Metcalf are just going to go bonkers. If Seattle gets out to an early lead, though, I'm kind of with you where I think that this game could disappoint. Now, two guys I don't think are going to disappoint, Evans and Godwin. Like, those guys haven't disappointed all year. I don't see a reason to think they disappoint here. Tampa's going to throw the ball either way. But the Seattle side, I genuinely do have some concerns from a fantasy standpoint. Tony, I know you're big on Lockett this week, though. Talk to me about the Seattle team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you, though. Like, it is going to come down to game script. Like, if somehow Seattle gets a lead, I like it a lot less. But the good thing for if Seattle gets a lead is Tampa's always just going to sling it around. I don't know. Like, the total's already dropped 2 points. It was 53.5. It's down to 51.5. So, I mean, I definitely could see this game going a lot of ways. So, if you're playing a bunch of teams, you definitely can't fade it. But it's not bad. And you're naturally going to fade it, too, on a lot of teams just because they don't fit. The game doesn't fit with the core, how everyone's going to build this week. That's one of the reasons Hoop probably doesn't like it, too, because the guys just don't fit with the build. Like, if you jam these top running backs and Samuels, you can't afford to pay $7,500 for these receivers. So, I don't know. Like, I like these guys. It's always hard to choose between Godwin and Evans. We always act like we know. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't, depending on who hits. One of them will probably crush again. Lockett. I do love Lockett, though. Like, I can't see any way. Pass funnel, unless they just get a lead and just pound it. But I don't think they'll be successful on the ground. So Tampa gets a lead. Seattle chases. I don't know. I could see it going both ways.
The other thing that I wanted to mention that I didn't was you always have that Winston game looming. The 4 interceptions, lost fumble type game. Like, we've seen it once this year, and he does it a few times throughout the season, and this could certainly be one of those spots as well. So there's a lot to worry about, I think, in this game.
Yeah, and I will also say if you're playing Russ, like I think running it back is kind of overrated, but if you're playing Russ, like you need to be running it back on the other side because the only way Russ gets there is if these Tampa guys are getting there as well.
Yes.
Let's talk Detroit and Oakland.
Can we play Cam Braid on a terrible tight end week?
I think so. Yeah.
Sure.
I like him. I mean, he was out there a lot of snaps and
tight end is horrific this week, right?
Like, the problem is Tanner Hudson was getting a lot of the red zone snaps. That's a concern.
I wanted Braid to sit so I could just play him. Like he's like 2,500 and like he's 4K or something on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean,
I wanted Braid to sit. That would have been perfect.
Yep. Then we would have had Tanner Hudson chalk. Tanner Hudson and Jalen Samuels talk. What could have gone wrong?
Yeah, he would have got a 0 for sure too. But
Detroit and Oakland, 50.5 point total. Oakland 2.5 point favorites. at home, and this is actually my favorite game. And I know, like, it's a high total. Of course it's going to be your favorite game. But I look at a guy like Matt Stafford, and he is my favorite quarterback on the slate. Throws deep at the highest rate in football. Oakland can't stop the deep ball. I love Stafford. I love Kenny Galladay. Hoop, are you on Team Stafford with me? You're up there in Detroit.
Yeah, I'm on this game like heavy. I like this game so much more than the one before. I really like what the Lions are doing. Like they're last season was so painful, like offensively, like what they're trying to do with LeGarrette Blount and just jamming it. They've been opening up the playbook, and you have to imagine after what they got out of the running backs last week, they open it up even more and just fully rely on the passing game. Stafford's been very solid. The deep balls have been there. So I just think they pass a ton, which, obviously leads me to believe this game has some big shootout potential. A lot of solid plays on both sides of the ball. You got Stafford, you got Galladay, Marvin Jones, a guy that no one's talking about who I like a lot, especially on full PPR sites, is Danny Amendola. Stafford's looking at him a ton, and he's converting at such a high rate, so really like him. Then it's easy to run him back on the other side. I think Derek Carr is also in play like him. Tyrell Williams, Darren Waller, and even Josh Jacobs is in play. So I really, really like this game all around.
My cheap receivers in this game that I like that everybody's going to hate, and you guys are going to make fun of me, and then he's going to go out and get 8 for 85 and a touchdown, and you're going to go, oh, Crane, you were right again. I really like Hunter Renfrow a lot in this game. And I mean a lot. I forget the guy's name, but the Detroit corner that's going to see Renfrow the majority of the game, he's the second most targeted cornerback in all of football. Renfro's a guy the targets have been up lately. Carr loves the short passing game. I think they're going to be throwing it a lot. Renfro's a guy too at 4.1K. If you want a cheap receiver, he's projected under 2% right now. I'm a big Renfrow fan. Tony, it's never going there. It's just dead silence. By the way, that's not a good.
It's all gravy after Henry. Like everything sounds like we're going to Sizzler no matter what you say now. Yeah, I'm good with anyone in this game. I like the Renfrow. Again, you said it. He's in that price range where CSU's got it.
I know, yeah. You can always tell when Tony opens up the chat finally.
You guys are the ones
he cannot stay on the path if he's in that chat. He's done.
He's saying some good stuff when I'm in the middle of my thoughts here. I can't be reading while I'm talking. So
yeah, one thing at a time. Let's not try to walk and chew gum, Tony.
That's one. I don't take credit. I definitely can't walk and chew gum. So I can beat hooping the old hoops. Can I take your name? Like if we win in hoops, can you no longer be known as Hoop?
What do you want me to be? Yeah, you have to submit a name change. Let me know when you come up with an idea.
Yeah, Renfrow. Anyways, Renfrow's in that range, same exact range, in this 4 to 5 range where I'm going to live today just because of the running backs I'm playing. So yeah, Renfrow, I like it because it gives you some late exposure to these high total games, and it'll be lower owned. I don't think he's like one of my favorites, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, Hoop, are you on Team Renfrow, or who do you like from this?
I like everyone from this game. There's not one person you're going to match. Even Marvin Hall. Give me some Marvin Hall. Where's he at? How much is he?
Not Marvin.
Cheap. Marvin Hall. I'll take Marvin Hall too. Why not? When he's on the field, he's getting bombs. Tournament stuff. I'm not.
You like Danny Amendola. You don't like Marvin Hall.
I like this.
You like Cole Beasley.
I like Mr. Give me Mr. Beasley too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What about
all the little whiteys running their little inside routes? 7 catches for 28 yards.
Sign me up.
We didn't talk about Josh Jacobs. Are either of you guys on Jacobs, or we just sort of glossed over?
He falls – I like Jacobs a lot today, but he falls kind of in that Henry category where the guys are just so good above him that I just can't fade those. There's not enough spots. Like on FantasyDraft, which we haven't talked a ton about the pricing on there, but today's a great day for FantasyDraft where
all the running backs.
You can play 4 running backs. So then all of a sudden, I don't hate Henry and Jacobs and these guys as much on FantasyDraft because you got 1 extra spot, where that's huge today too, because these running backs, you could play all the running backs today. So I like Jacobs though. Like he's a good play for sure, but I'd rather just play the passing game the way the roster's set up.
Yeah, Hoop, do you like Jacobs or anybody else that we haven't like? We barely mentioned Waller, and he's probably the best tight end play on the slate.
Well, I mean, I think he's in play. Jacobs, I prefer those other guys, so it'd be more tournament type stuff. And if I'm stacking this game, I want it to be, the passing attacks that get it done. So just because of that, I'll be off him for the most part. But I do think he's a fine play. But like I said, I prefer all passing aspects of this game much more.
All right, Green Bay at the Chargers. A sneaky high total, especially because I don't think we're going to see a ton of ownership in this game. 48.5, Packers 3.5-point favorites. And which one of you mentioned Aaron Jones earlier? Was that Tony or was that who?
I think I threw his name out there.
Okay, so Aaron Jones against the Chargers. Look, I'm going to like anybody against the Chargers. That defense stinks. What do you think about the Green Bay side, Hoop?
I mean, I like this. Another game that I like in general. I mean, we need these 4 p.m. shootouts, or the pocketbook's going to be struggling after today because I like this game all around. I like Aaron Jones. I think Devontae Adams is probably, I'd say, probably one of the best tournament plays on the board. I love Adams. Like they've obviously been super cautious with him. They've won every game, right? Since he's what are they? They've only lost one.
I think they've only lost the Philly game.
Yeah, so they've won every game since he's been out. They've been super cautious with him. You have to imagine he's 100%. And then you see the video on Thursday of him like leapfrogging over the coach or whatever. Do you guys see that video?
Even if he is healthy, like what is that anyways?
I don't know.
Like you've been out for a month and you're playing leapfrog after practice. Like what?
He's full go, and I just still am envisioning the game he got hurt where Aaron Rodgers was literally just peppering him with targets. This offense as a whole is so much better. That's the one spot they've been lacking, like consistency at the wide receiver position, and I think they get it back today in a big way. His price is not where it should be. If he's fully healthy, the matchup's great. So I really like Adams in tournaments. And then on the other side, there's a lot of guys that you can play. I mean, there is some hope with this offense, getting rid of the offensive coordinator. Maybe this guy was sitting back and like, okay, what the hell are we doing here? Like their offense was competent to start the year. Then they go to Melvin Gordon. It was full disaster. I mean, it can't be any worse than it's been. So maybe they get back on track. I think Keenan Allen he's really cheap on like DraftKings. I think he's a fine play. Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, a lot to like in this game.
Yeah, Hunter Henry, that price is really shot up. I was enjoying it really cheap. Like
that's what makes tight ends so difficult. They kind of got these guys way up there now.
How could you play Hunter Henry over Waller today?
Yeah,
I'm not sure you can.
Like if he was like 1,000 cheaper, then he'd be a decent play. But I mean, I couldn't even play Kelsey over Waller. Like Waller's a stud in our favorite game too. There's no way you can play Hunter Henry over these top guys. He's in that range.
Well, Tony, this is a big total. So who are you playing in this one?
See, I just don't like this game as much. I like Adams, but again, it's just the way the pricing sets up. I can't really play Adams over guys like Lockett and those guys, but obviously he could go off.
Don't play Lockett, man. I keep trying to
I'm playing Lockett for sure.
I keep trying to tell you, man. Don't play Lockett.
Like, I'm definitely playing Lockett. But, yeah, I like Mike Williams a little bit in this game. He's, again, I know I keep talking about these guys between 4 and 5K, but that's just because those are the guys I'm playing today. Mike Williams is another one that all year long dropping touchdowns, missing him in the end zone, all this stuff. He's due for a week where he catches a few of these. This could be the week where everything comes together for him. Probably won't be, but I'll play him again.
Yeah, Mike Williams sucks, but hey, whatever. What are you going to do? That's just how it is sometimes. All right, we got 2 games left. Let's go ahead and jump on it, and it's going to be a quick one. Cleveland at Denver, 39-point total. The Browns, 4-point favorites, and this is the Nick Chubb game, and I don't really like anybody else here. Or Hoop, do you like anybody else from this besides Chubb?
I like Chubb. I like Jarvis Landry. Odell should have a pretty tough matchup here, so I think Landry can get open in the field a little bit. I do like Chubb a lot. I think the Browns smash here, like in a big way. Browns have had I think they've had the toughest schedule to start the season. Like it seems like every week it's a tough matchup. I think they kind of get things rolling here against the Broncos, so I like them to kind of smash, which makes me like Chubb quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm a big Chubb guy this week. Tony, are you on team?
Are you
Chubb?
normally a little Chubb guy?
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think Cleveland too. This is one of the two games that Hoop got right this week because me and him are both on Cleveland, and I just
one of the two.
I love Landry. Might be my favorite receiver of the day. He's just so cheap when the only good cornerback for Denver is going to be shadowing OBJ. I think Landry just has a big game. He's so cheap. Again, he's in that 4 to 5K range that I'm trying to kind of live in. I just think I like him a ton. And I don't hate these cheap tight ends as tournament plays. Crane told me on Thursday or whenever we did the show that I was going to end up getting on my man Fant.
Yeah.
I
told you were going to do it.
Tight end is so terrible that if I could get a cheap guy that's getting a bunch of targets, he's awful. And I on him.
You gave me so much crap.
Yeah, Crane called it. I give you credit. You called it. I'm officially on him a little bit.
Talking tight ends. I'm like, dude, you're going to end up getting on Noah Fant. It's just going to happen.
Tight end is so bad, man. Like, I either have to pay up or find one of these just terrible guys because I don't want to play Ertz all that much. And I don't even completely hate Ricky Seals-Jones, my boy, and just a total flyer. Like, he's going to be under 1%. And I think Cleveland rolls. I could see Seals-Jones breaking one. If you can find the tight end.
Ricky Seals-Jones can't. The only thing Ricky Seals-Jones can break is your lineups, man. Like,
Ricky Seals-Jones has like 8 kids. He can break a lot of things.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Speaking of the woman.
Oh.
I think I like Cleveland a decent amount in this game. Like I think Callaway too is a decent like tournament.
Oh boy, it's getting close to wrapping the show up, right? Are we almost done here, boys?
I like Cleveland. I can't help myself.
Oh, I'm gonna have to.
Denver's gonna pack it
off
in,
the
man.
air here in a minute.
Flacco, they sucked last week. Flacco called out everyone. This team's gonna tank hard. Cleveland might win like 42-10 today.
All right, Tony, I want to see your Baker teams. I want to see your Baker.
I'm not playing Baker. I didn't say Baker.
He likes every pass catcher on the Browns, but not the quarterback. That's amazing.
Baker at 5.1K with Chief Jarvis Landry, with Chief Antonio Callaway. You can even pair him with Ricky Seals-Jones for no money. Come on. If you're going to like all these guys, you got to like a little Baker.
No, these guys are dirt cheap. Like, if Seals-Jones gets me 14, I'm going to win all the money.
Tony's going to have like the 8 highest priced running backs on his team after he plays Landry, Callaway, Seals-Jones, and then goes double tight end with Fant. He's gonna have like 12K per position left.
Yep.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Booger, look at Booger eating moron. That's great. Also true.
That guy's a legend, by the way. Such a nice Booger eating moron. Such a nice guy. Met him a couple times.
I met him in San Diego. I think.
Yeah, good dude.
I think he took down I think he got second place in the baseball final, I think.
I believe so. Good dude.
All right, Patriots and Baltimore. Let's talk the Sunday night game. Patriots, only 3-point favorites on the road. I'm a little surprised they're only 3-point favorites, but
I'm not. I'm a little surprised they're favored.
Oh gosh, it's gonna be so funny. It's turned into the trendiest. Talk about trendy picks. Just picking against the Patriots every week has turned so trendy.
New England's literally getting like 80% of the action again, so they're not trendy.
Okay.
Like, how could they be trendy if everyone's on?
They're trendy within our circle. Everyone loves going against.
And we lose every week.
Exactly.
Well, me.
But it's changing this week. I guarantee Empires. That's one of Empires.
Oh, I guarantee. Because Baltimore is a good play tonight. Like, of course, it's one of his.
All right, so from
every week, it's so funny. You vowed 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. You said, you know what? Patriots cover every week. Maybe I should start getting on the Patriots. Now, every week, you go against the Patriots.
They've covered every week. I've said it. I mean, I admit it.
This is the week. This is the week.
I just play the numbers. Like, it's just yeah.
It's worked out well. So
far, I'll give you that one.
Worked out so well.
All right, real quick, let's touch on this game from a fantasy standpoint. Who do you like in this game?
So what? We're talking more like showdown type stuff.
No, it's on the main slate on Fantasy Draft.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, not a game I think you want a ton of. obviously, if you're playing the slates that go all the way through or playing on FantasyDraft or Yahoo, I think Yahoo has it on the main slate. I don't know, maybe take a shot on like Sanu or something in tournaments on the other side. I don't know. I don't like this game at all for DFS, so I'll just leave it at that.
I don't like it that much either. I guess might be some value on the Patriots receivers, that now that it's just, Sanu, like you said, Philip Dorsett's only 4K. That's cheap enough. Like, Tony, who do you like here?
Yeah, I wish we knew about Hollywood Brown. Do we know if he plays?
I think he's going to play, but he's still
I want him to play bad because he's the guy. Just because New England plays man D, obviously. That's why they've been so good, which means they suck against running quarterbacks. And once he gets out of the pocket, he's going to take off, and that dude's going to be running down the field. So I think Hollywood breaks one or two. I think Lamar, he might get 2 to the house.
Wow.
And Lamar is going to go off. Lamar's going to run for like 130 tonight. New England sucks against guys like Lamar. Baltimore owns New England.
Stop it. New England, the only thing they're going to do is say, if Lamar is going to beat us, it's going to be with his arm. They're going to be running that.
They play their scheme won't allow it.
Every time they take away the team's best weapon. What is the Baltimore Ravens' best weapon?
They're going to change the whole scheme?
I believe so. I mean, it's a very unique team they're going against. You think Belichick's going to sit back and let them run for 200 yards?
Well, I mean, they've given up 0 points all year, so I don't see why they'd change their scheme.
It's just a different team. I mean, they have had like the easiest schedule of all time to start the year, so they probably haven't had to get very innovative.
We'll see. I like Lamar in Hollywood. I mean, I'm sure I'll be wrong again. New England does own me. I will admit that. They have conquered me.
Well, there hasn't been more ownage than me with the Bears. Last year, pick against them every single week. This year on them every week.
You derailed them too this year. You got on them and they are in shambles. You're like Denny Green now. You got to play the old Denny Green. They are who we thought they were.
Yes,
We let them off the hook.
Yeah, I did. I let them off the hook this year, and now I'm regretting it.
All right, guys, we got to get off here. We got to make way for Dean and 2 poor guys that have to work with Dean. Make sure you check out FantasyDraft. They got some fun tournaments today. $25 buy-in, $50K up top in the Hooters main event. There's only about 300 spots in that, so make sure you check it out. But we got to go. Thanks, FantasyDraft, for sponsoring the show. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Tony, for Noah Fant, for who else did we talk about today? What other crap?
Hunter Renfrow.
For Hunter Renfrow. For Henry.
Derrick Henry. I did a little partial windmill before Derrick Henry.
Okay. Catch y'all later. Thanks for watching, everybody.
I take it back.
What's up, guys? Beer here, back into Fantasy Bar. 6 of my favorite plays for you over on Yahoo for Week 9. We're going to try to identify some value and what game are we going to attack and stack up this week. Belly up to the Fantasy Bar and find out. Welcome in, guys. Week 9 edition Beers Daily Fantasy 6-pack back here in the Fantasy Bar, as always, providing you with 6 of my favorite plays over on Yahoo. Before we look at Week 9, let's take a quick look back at Week 8 here on Yahoo. Pretty solid week here. Obviously, the highlight, Tannehill to Jonnu Smith, talked about how cheap that stack was, allowed us to get a guy like Saquon Barkley in our lineups who paid off. Kenny Stills, the big miss for us, was expecting more production out of him. The points were there. The production just wasn't there for Kenny Stills. But all in all, we'll take it. Solid week here in Week 8. But we turn the page to Week 9 and another interesting slate here. So let's jump in at the running back position with Jordan Howard of Philadelphia, $19. So normally not a guy that I play a ton, and normally a defense I don't attack a ton, but it matches up here. Jordan Howard, what do we know? Pretty good around the goal line, a guy that can find the end zone. And the Bears allowing the 3rd most touchdowns per game to opposing running backs. We have Philadelphia at home, 5-point home favorites. We know running backs don't always have to target home favorites, but it can be favorable. A team playing with a lead, it makes sense. Let's grind out the clock. Let's get this guy the ball, and that's what he is, a grinder. So we don't really worry about the PPR as much here on Yahoo. It's not as important as it is over on DraftKings. So Jordan Howard, we know, doesn't do much in that area, but the touchdowns, the clock grinder, and the sweet revenge narrative here for Jordan Howard going against his former team. I think he finds the end zone here, has a nice day, gets some Jordan Howard in those Yahoo lineups at just $19. All right, next pick for us, we're going to go way off the reservation here. This one will not be for everybody, but I'm going to go to the tight end position, and we're going to go with Jacob Hollister of the Seahawks, $13. Now, I know there's a few people out there that are saying, Beer, who in the hell is Jacob Hollister? You know, admit it. I know you're out there, but if you don't know, this guy's, it's not for everybody. Like I said, probably not a cash game play. Actually, definitely not a cash game play. But in tournaments, this game's going to be very popular. There's going to be plays on both sides of the game that people go to, the Carsons of the world. You guys know I like that Tampa Bay stack if you watch the DraftKings and FanDuel video. But tight ends against Tampa Bay, almost as automatic as tight ends against Arizona. In fact, only the Cardinals allowing more production to the tight end position than are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So yes, it's risky, but does have a 6-target game on the logs. You stack this game up, you throw him in there, that instantly differentiates you from everybody else. I don't think anybody's going to go to Jacob Hollister here. So a sub 5% play, risky, yes, but the reward is there. I feel good about him. I'll be rolling the dice. Get Jacob Hollister in those game stacks and even in some tournament lineups at only $13. All right, let's go to the running back position here. Once again, we're going to roll in the mid-range with Devin Singletary, $16. So, guys, I could come on here and say, play McCaffrey, play Dalvin Cook. Too easy. We need to find some other guys that we can mix in. And I think Devin Singletary, one of those guys I'm going to have in my player pool this week. Another guy that's a big favorite at home. We're talking about a 9.5 home favorite here for the Buffalo Bills against the Washington Redskins. 9th most fantasy points allowed per game to the position. 5th most rushing yards allowed to the position. I know this guy's been more productive in the passing game. I know the touches aren't there. We want those 20-touch running backs. You got to pay for those 20-touch running backs. I think his opportunity workload really going to start to grow here. We know what we have in Frank Gore. Okay, got it. Let's see what we have in Devin Singletary. Can this guy be our workhorse? I think he gets more opportunities here, especially if they play out like the spread says and they're playing from ahead. I think Devin Singletary going to get opportunities. The scoring opportunities should be there. I'm going to be ahead of the curve here, hopefully, with Devin Singletary before he becomes one of those workhorse running backs. I think he gets a nice, healthy workload here against Washington. I think a big day is in order here for Devin Singletary, and it only costs you $16. All right, let's go to the wide receiver position. Our first pick there going to be Tyrell Williams of the Raiders, $20. So this guy we know was injured, but every game he's played this season, we're talking about 5 games, this guy has scored a touchdown. So getting the job done here for the Oakland Raiders. The Lions giving up over a touchdown a game to opposing wide receivers. So again, we match up those touchdown scorers with those defenses who are struggling in that department. And the Lions, right near the top of the league in allowing touchdowns to receivers, has a questionable tag there on Yahoo. And you're saying, what does that have to do with anything? People see that Q, the red Q, it stands out. They don't want to play that guy. And I don't expect that Q to stay there forever. But early lineup builders, and as long as that thing is there, people will avoid him. There's more popular options in this game, a game I'm very high on. But guys like Darren Waller are going to be popular. I like Josh Jacobs. Tyrell Williams got to come in third as far as Oakland Raiders exposure goes. Should be near the top here. I think he scores again against the Detroit Lions. Potential shootout here. And $20, very solid price here for Tyrell Williams against this Lions defense. All right, wide receiver number 2 for us. We're going to go to the other side of that game and roll with Kenny Golladay, $25. So we talked about how Tyrell Williams has scored in every single game. Kenny Golladay, multiple touchdowns scored now, twice over the last month. So finding the end zone at a very high rate here. And the Raiders allowing the 5th most touchdowns per game to the wide receiver position. So both of these teams really struggle against wideouts, especially keeping wide receivers out of the end zone. Oakland also allowing a ton of fantasy points. As you'd expect, you're giving up a lot of touchdowns. Simple math says you're giving up a lot of fantasy points, and that's what we have here with the Oakland Raiders. 6th most. Kenny Golladay in another great spot here. Keep mentioning potential shootout here. I think we get a lot of points here. Vegas agrees, one of the highest totals on the board. And again, very solid price here. Tyrell Williams, Kenny Golladay in your wide receiver core here for week 9. All right, it's time to take a look at my favorite play for Week 9 on Yahoo. But before we get to that, guys, I need a couple things from you. As always, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. It's the easiest way to figure out and find out when the videos are coming out. You hit that little bell. You will be notified when the fantasy bar opens up. Grab your seat. Check out the video. So hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell. Also, if you're enjoying your time here bellied up to the fantasy bar, click that thumbs up button, guys. Really helps us out there on YouTube. That's the tip jar here. Never going to ask you for any money. Free of charge. All I ask, you click that button. Takes a couple seconds. Not even 1 second, 2 seconds. Easy. Appreciate it, guys. Now, also, as a thank you, we're going to continue our Beast of the Week contest. Closest in fantasy points to my Beast of the Week is going to win a free week of RotoGrinders Premium, which gives you access to everything we have. Ton of stuff there to help you build those daily fantasy lineups. So absolutely priceless if you don't have it. So we'll give you a free week there. If you're already a loyal subscriber, we'll give you a free RotoGrinders t-shirt. So who are we talking about? Who are we guessing on? Let's take a look at my favorite play. You know him as the Beast of the Week. All right, Beast time. We like that Raiders-Oakland game. We haven't given you a quarterback yet. I actually like both quarterbacks in that game, but we're going to go right back to the well on Matthew Stafford of the Lions. $35 this week's Beast of the Week. So the Galladay-Stafford connection was very good to us last week. Had that over on the FanDuel DraftKings video, so hopefully you guys had exposure to that. And I'm going to go right back to the well here once again. I normally like to mix it up, but this is such a good spot. I want to highlight it once again. Stafford been outstanding this season. 23 or more Yahoo points now in 3 of the last 4 games. So easily pays off that $35 price tag. When we're looking at matchups, there is not a single team out there allowing more fantasy points to the quarterback position than the Oakland Raiders. I know Aaron Rodgers and his 6 touchdowns had a lot to do with that. They have not been good against quarterbacks. We have a very high...
What is going on, RotoGrinders? Dean here. It's Dean7904 if you want to get all technical on me. It is actually 10:12 on the East Coast, 7:12 on the West Coast, 9:12 Tennessee time. It's, of course, it's time for the flagship show here at RotoGrinders. It's called GrindersLive. It's sponsored by Yahoo. Joining me today, usual suspects. It's Grant Neefer. It's Mr. Tuttle. Tuttle, you excited for today's slate?
What time is it in London?
I think it's 6 hours ahead, so I want to say 6 or 7, depending on where I'm going by East Coast time, but
8 or 9 or 11.
Well, actually, I don't even know if they partake in the – because, of course, you guys are aware that the clocks moved up or they moved back. I don't know if they partake. Last night, yeah. You weren't aware of this concept?
You know what's crazy? The entire country of China is one time zone.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. I don't know if it's crazy. It's a thing.
Well, it's great. Like, you're the same time as another part of the country that should be 3 hours behind you. So it's like if the entire U.S. were the same time zone. Talking to someone like, oh, yeah, it gets dark around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If you're talking to someone over in New York.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like sometimes of the year it's midnight in Alaska and it's sunny out, or like in Scandinavia.
I mean, sometimes
that's
it's
crazy
never light or never dark. That is crazy. You ever thought about going 3 months in complete darkness? Or being able to golf at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, the golf is, of course, your leisure activity of choice. We do have to talk today's slate, Grant. Of course, before you break it down position by position, want to say hello to YouTube. You guys are over there. Feel free to like and subscribe. We much appreciate that as far as the old analytics. If you guys are asking questions throughout the show, we'll do our best to knock out as many questions as possible. Of course, we will answer questions from the RotoGrinders chat as well. Before we break it down position by position, we do want to give a shout out to the sponsor here as far as Yahoo. Their big contest today going down is the Baller. Just what is 31%?
Baller, Shakala. Keep going.
Great, you can't just let me power through with the promo.
Well, I can't sit here and be quiet for what, 10, 15 minutes?
You can read the promo if you want. I'll just chill.
You know I can't read, Dean.
You can ad-lib it. You're aware. You've heard it enough.
Yeah, that was a cheap shot, Dean.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a callback to our pre-show conversation. I'm still insulted. Me and Tuttle were still offended retroactively.
I should have been the most offended.
Yeah, $250K is total prize pool, of course, in the Baller on Yahoo today. They do have CSV. I believe that's now a thing on Yahoo as well. $10 a jump in there, $25K as far as first place. So it's a nice flat payout. Here's guys in their flat payouts, and the management fee is just 10%, which is much nicer than places around the industry as well. Do want to give shout out to those that are rocking the RG badge these days. Of course, if you're rocking the RotoGrinders badge and you finish in the top 10 of certain contests, you get yourself 1 month free of RotoGrinders Premium. Shout outs are as follows. Creighton 3. I'm reading these blind. I've not taken a look at them, so they can definitely fall for this one. Hopefully they're nothing too goofy. Creighton 3, what up? Hershey 122, and M. Pimpton 4. There you go. Single entry series is still going down over on FanDuel. Feel free to check that out to win yourself a chance to get a vacation to Puerto Rico for the WFFC. And the link's going to be dropped in chat as well for you guys as far as the Vegas Insider Contest, $10,000 in total prize pool for the Sharp Side app. I believe it's $5K to the winner. That's both for your Android and for your Apple phone. All right. Should we have this conversation first at the top? Title is just, overall, screenshot as far as the slate. It's not a very pretty slate. It's a little bit short with the game, of course, in London. 11 games, 10 games, depending on where you're shopping, if you have the night game or not. There's exactly one value play, like obvious value play. It's Jalen Samuels. We currently have him projected at like 62% in tournaments, which is completely insane. But we live in the world of a salary cap, and there's lots of injuries, and he just kind of makes things work. Give me your screenshot as far as this slate there, Tuttle.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting week. You mentioned Samuels is going to be extreme chalk. I think wide receiver ownership is going to be pretty spread out. There's a few different ways to go. Not a whole lot on the high end either. Some guys that are decent plays, but probably a little bit overpriced on any other week. Running back, we obviously have McCaffrey, extremely, extremely expensive. Dalvin Cook could play extremely expensive. So yeah, trying to figure out, how to navigate that with Samuels and which wide receivers to play, I think is basically the question of the week. What's
the general cash build? Of course, you're going to have Samuels in there. One of the two studs as far as the running backs, two of the two studs as far as the running backs. You can go down to a guy like Walton if you want to open up and spend up for receivers. I don't think that makes as much sense for cash. You can do it. You certainly can make that happen. But what's the route you're currently looking at?
Yeah, I think it's McCaffrey, Jalen Samuels, save at a couple wide receiver spots. Then you can play, depending on which site you're playing at. Like on DraftKings, Chubb is a nice price. So it'd be like throwing him as that third running back on Yahoo. I think Chris Carson's significantly cheaper. So it'd be looking at a guy like him on FanDuel. Le'Veon Bell's the kind of the cheap guy to look at. So it just depends. That third running back is going to depend on the site you play at. But I think Samuels and McCaffrey almost come in preloaded in cash games.
We're going to have the conversation as far as Yahoo. Le'Veon Bell's $26, and the Carson conversation is $22. And I don't want to play Carson, but I think stubborn Carroll is going to run him out there for 27 carries, despite the fact that that's not what you're supposed to do against Tampa. Grant, what's your overall screenshot as far as this slate?
I don't like it.
Yeah.
But my biggest problem is Samuels. Anytime I have a guy that I'm pretty much going 100% on that's also going to be chalk, just ruins the day for me most of the time. I just feel depressed. Like, oh, he got a touchdown. No, it doesn't matter. But I'm probably going all in on him, so that makes the first spot pretty easy there. Outside of him, there's a lot of good mid-tier options, a lot of good for running back, and a lot of cheap options at wide receiver that I really like. So it's not a terrible little slate. I think there's a lot of good game stacking spots. And we got your boy, Brandon Allen, starting at cornerback.
He's not I just learned of his existence like 4 days ago, so he's
you and
definitely
me
not
both.
He sounds like somebody that would be Dean's boy.
No, we're not boys. We're not Facebook friends. I don't follow him on Twitter. He is crazy cheap, but that's a good segue though, Grant, into the the quarterbacks. 2 premium games, I suppose you want to look at it from a perspective a DFS as far as totals as well too. And let's take a jump. Let's see what's going on as far as the ownership. Let's take a peek as far as the lineup HQ. A little peek as far as premium what's going down here, Grant. And your boy, this is actually your boy. Isn't Russell Wilson your guy? Because you're a Seattle fan. He's currently leading the ownership projections. And I don't know what to do because he's super efficient. But again, the aforementioned Coach Carroll is just probably going to want to run the ball. They're probably going to be ahead. He's crazy efficient. But as you saw last week, what do you have, like 5 passes in the second half? Of course, you got Derek Carr as well. So he's much cheaper within the world of salary cap. Not a lot of value plays out there. So I like him a good bit in that matchup versus Detroit, which should shoot out to some degree. Winston probably playing catch up against Seattle. Stafford as well. Well, those 4 quarterbacks in those 2 games, Grant, are soaking up some quick UCF math, about 50% of the usage as far as the quarterback ownership. Who's your favorite amongst those 4?
You didn't mention my favorite. What about?
Is it Allen?
No, I will play some Allen though, but that's strictly a DK play where he's 4.1.
No, Josh Allen.
Huh?
I thought Josh Allen was your guy.
Oh, I do love me some Josh Allen. Just the problem is he's strictly a tournament play. He has big upside. He hasn't thrown the ball deep as much or running as much as he should be recently, but he's going up against Washington, which should enable him to do some work here. So I like him. But Phillip Rivers, going up against Green Bay, a 48.5 total in this game. I think that it's actually going to be pretty close. I think there was some reverse line movement earlier on in the week with the Chargers there. Rivers at 5.1K. Like Mike Williams, Henry, Eckler, Gordon, and Keenan Allen are all in the offense. When Phillip Rivers has his weapons and he's forced to throw the ball a decent amount instead of run the ball, he can put up big numbers. We haven't seen it at all this season. But you look at the past several years, it's not like he's a worse quarterback. It's not like he has worse weapons. It's just it hasn't worked out that so far this year. The line has been awful, and that's definitely a big factor in it. But you look at a lot of the teams that he played. Miami, they were blowing him out. Detroit's defense was pretty darn good at the beginning of the season here. Chicago, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Denver all have good defenses, and they can all do some work. Green Bay is probably the worst defense he's faced since Miami. And so I really like Phillip Rivers here out of those guys. He's 5.1K. That seems a little bit too cheap. And then Carr, yes, he's a good play. Winston's a good play. Wilson's a good play. But they're all good, and Stafford's a good play. They're all going to draw a lot of ownership. Pivoting off to Ryan Fitzpatrick against the Jets in a game that could shoot out. And Fitzpatrick's always a guy that can put up big numbers. And Matt Moore, you have high correlations between how these quarterbacks do and how their pass catchers do. So for tournaments, Rivers, Moore, Fitzpatrick are all fantastic plays, and out.
So a couple things. What do you think the OC change is how's that gonna affect things as far as Rivers?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. He's the same price on Yahoo, by the way. Carr is $27. It's a little bit trickier as far as making things work. And the price difference is so drastic. Currently in cash right now on Yahoo, I have Carr at $27. Don't mind Winston at $29. And you mentioned Rivers as well is also $27 too. Can't get all the way up to a guy like Wilson. Love him for tournaments, obviously, if things gonna crack the right way. Tuttle, what say you as far as quarterbacks?
You guys mentioned everybody, right?
Well, okay, but feel free to sort of chime in.
Yeah, Russell Wilson, cash game play. Worry about volume like you do every week with him. Tournament options, I'm on the same guys that Grant's on. Rivers, Fitzpatrick, if you want to go really cheap and get real ugly, I think that's fine as well. I think kind of crazily that Carolina pass catchers are going to be relatively chalky, so it makes some sense to just play Kyle Allen in tournaments as well. Pair him with that and then fade McCaffrey, even though you don't have to do that. McCaffrey obviously catches the ball enough where you can play those two together. Jameis Winston in tournaments. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. You guys covered pretty much every angle.
Is there anybody else you want to throw new that's off the board, a 1 in 150 play, or you're just kind of keeping the core tight as far as your quarterbacks?
I'm not sure if Grant said this one, but I'm not doing it. A name I see getting thrown around is Matt Moore. Again, that's not something I'm going to do. I'd rather just play. I think Fitzpatrick's a better play. I'd rather play him. But I've seen Matt Moore's name being thrown around. I'll probably just avoid that one. But
I thought you were going to say Trubisky when you said I've seen, because that's the guy I've seen a lot go through out there. He's won like 3 million makers. He's got some cheap receivers, and the matchup against Philly, you're supposed to be passing the ball. My issue with Moore is that I think Minnesota just does their best to play keep away against KC and has like those 7 or 8 or 9 minute drives, just grind the ball on the ground where KC can't stop Cook. And, the key to scoring fantasy points, Tuttle, you got to be on the field, right? And I don't know. Also, Matt Moore not very good, I guess, that we got buried the lead.
I do think that's obviously been the key to beating Kansas City, but I don't think teams with Matt Moore under center are going to be as concerned about keeping the ball away, per se. I still think Minnesota's obviously going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball a lot. So that's still a concern, but I don't think it's it's not in the same vein as what we had when Mahomes was quarterbacking, where teams are just going to pound the ball, 80% of the time on their drives. It's going to be a decent split, but yeah, Matt Moore, I can't do it, but
Grant did mention him in passing. I don't know how enthused he was about the Matt Moore. He just kind of threw his name in the conversation.
It was enthused. I mean, look at his offense. Like, look at his weapons. Like, you're talking about Fitzpatrick versus Matt Moore. It's not like Minnesota's been that great versus opposing quarterbacks so far this year. Moore is in an offense with Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce. Like, he has weapons to use. He has a genius offensive coach that made Alex Smith look great. Took him to playoffs every single year. Matt Moore can do a whole lot of work in this offense.
Speaking
is Sammy Watkins a weapon? Also, Travis Kelce's a beta now, so who cares about him?
Well, you know that Minnesota's been one of the worst teams in the league versus the tight end, and it gives up an unreal target share to opposing tight ends.
According to Gridiron IQ, Minnesota has allowed the 13 most fantasy points per game to the tight end position.
Well, that's largely irrelevant. People look at those numbers and they don't really correlate to actuality. The reason why Arizona was so much worse than everyone else was because of elite tight end matchups against them. Minnesota going up against lesser tight ends has given up a ridiculous amount of points in comparison to the overall average fantasy points that those players score.
They've actually faced, Detroit's not good, obviously, but they've faced Ertz, Ingram, Waller.
Yeah, you're saying Ertz is good? I think
Ertz, Ingram and Waller, 3 of the best tight ends in the league.
3 out of 8 games where
we're going to call this one. We're going to get the Tuttle with the first round TKO. Grant, not only that, he was a company man. So
the only reason why I remember this angle is because I tried to use it for Ingram. Did not work. I tried to use it for Ertz. Did not work. Tried to use it for, who was the other one I mentioned? Did not work.
Hawkinson, you mentioned him. But lost in that conversation, did I hear Grant besmirching one of his former boys, Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I didn't besmirch him. I besmirched the offense around him.
It works for Waller. Waller's the guy that it worked for. 13. That was his 13-catch game for 134 yards.
It's interesting because a lot of people have pointed at Jet Miami game, 42.5 total, obviously, as ways to sort of jam in other players, and people are getting excited about it. 2 teams that probably don't want to win this game. 2 bad defenses. Who knows how that game's going to go down. Then Walton's and our guy, our cheapie, we'll talk about in a second as far as running backs. And, Lev Bell was supposedly in the trade market last week. I don't know who would trade for Lev Bell, but, he's obviously not been very good. He's still priced up probably too much in certain spots just because of the matchup. It's been adjusted, but he hasn't had a good game in like 5 weeks or something like that. And, even the coach, revenge game for Adam Gase. He was such a disaster in Miami. They got rid of him. Of course, the Jets coach now. That can kind of lead into the conversation as far as running backs. Well, Tuttle, let me ask you this. What are you doing with Samuels? Is it just like, let's just hit the lock button? Or I can't remember if this was pre-show or if this was during the show where you were talking about there are routes where he might not necessarily get there or get what you need.
So it's football. If a guy, we have – we have, groundbreaking information. This is football.
Okay.
We have Jalen Samuels at 60% owned. There are ways he does not pay off his price tag, even though he's extremely cheap. I do think, just what I'm trying to see, yes, Josh Oliver on the board, guys. Josh Oliver on the board over in London.
What channel is that game on? I couldn't find it.
I have it on NFL Network.
Oh.
I think you're going to see a lot of Marlon Mack. I think the Colts are just going to absolutely dominate time of possession in this game. Jalen Samuels obviously extremely cheap. Doesn't have to do a whole lot to get to double digits. I think it's in his range of outcomes. I think he most likely does it. But it's football. I could see, again, Colts dominating time of possession. There's the injury factor, which you can't really put a whole lot of weight into. But there are ways that he does not hit double-digit fantasy points. If that happens, you want to be underweight on him in the field. Again, probability of that happening, I don't know. What do you guys think? What is Jalen Samuels' probability of hitting double-digit fantasy points in the spot?
Double digit?
85%.
Yeah, that's a big number. But, like, is 10 good enough? No.
Well, you're essentially playing to, like, all the probabilities. Like, is 10 good enough? 85% of the time he's going to get 10 or more. But in that 85% of the time, 70% of the time it's going to be 15, 60% of the time it's going to be 18, 30% of the time it's going to be over 20. Like, it's not just one or the other.
I'll take the under on 30%, 20.
Really?
Well,
even in full point PPR sites?
We can't sim this out 1,000 times.
So the thing is here, there's also there's strategy involved in terms of opportunity cost. It depends on how the week plays out, which we don't know ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also, again, just forcing yourself into different lineup construction. It might get you to, a higher price running back that does outscore him, even if it's not necessarily a better point per dollar play, but he might outscore him by, 10 fantasy points, which is going to be valuable in the end. It might put you on a different receiving structure that gets you where you need to go in tournaments. So it's more of a game theory of play than not thinking Jalen Samuels is a good play. Jalen Samuels is a good play. You play him in cash games, move on. But at 60% owned, anybody who's going to be 60% owned, you have to think about fading him in tournaments.
Yeah, I have the lineup HQ up right now, D-Train, if you want to go ahead and show that to the people. We currently see it at 62% ownership, and that is projected for tournaments, not for cash. He should be, at least 90% in cash. I did run a poll. If you're gonna check my Twitter followers, 738 people. I asked, how much Jalen Samuels do you plan on playing this week? 68%, Grant. 68% said all in. He's a lock. 8% the same as percentage of the field. 6% some, but less than the field, and 18% full fade. So if you're to believe my Twitter followers, it's that 60% might even be low, which is insane.
Yeah, but your Twitter followers don't really fully incorporate the masses that don't care at all who you are.
It's a bubble. Yeah. And I get it. We're in our own little bubble. But what do you plan on doing, Grant? Just lock button? Move on?
I'm probably going 80%. There's not a right way to do it, and any number is fully justifiable. I'm just going slightly over the field and leaving 20% probably on the board. Without Samuel, it's a full-on lock in cash games. Once I'm not using Samuel, I'm probably going to end up using Walton. Not happy about it. It's not great, but Walton is the main guy in that offense. It's projected to be a close matchup here. He can get volume. He can do stuff in the receiving game. Touchdowns drastically change the way that things turn out in DFS. And so if he gets into the end zone, if he gets 20 carries / receptions and gets into the end zone, he should end up crushing there, even behind a bad Miami offensive line and a bad Miami offense.
Yeah, Tuttle, they're asking in chat, like, what are the pivots from Samuels? And that's kind of like you have to ask yourself multiple questions. Like, okay, like once you decide I'm going to fade Samuels, now what are my pivots to do so? And like you said, it doesn't exactly have to be the same price. It can be a guy a little bit more, a little bit less, and then you kind of adjust as far as other players. And then it essentially becomes like a 3v3 or a 4v3, 4v4. 4v3 would not be fair. I guess Walton is the most logical pivot. Is there anybody else that you see as like a natural pivot, or it's just a different lineup build and that's that?
I think the value from fading him is in a different lineup build. I don't think it's from going to a guy that's the same price, because there aren't many guys in the same price range that have anywhere close to his range of outcomes. So yeah, I'm Walton would be the direct guy in line with that projects the best, but it's a different lineup build is kind of where the value comes from.
Yeah, I agree. And like, if you're playing Samuels, you're probably playing one of, if not both, McCaffrey and Cook, right? So maybe you just hammer guys in the middle. We'll talk about you play Chubb, Aaron Jones, and Lev Bell or something like that. Play those three together, and maybe that beats the combination of Samuels, one of the studs, and somebody else. Speaking of McCaffrey and Cook, Tuttle, do you have a take as far as who you prefer over the others? You're just going to grab shares of both, or what?
McCaffrey.
Is it not close?
Yeah, I don't think it's all that close.
Okay.
I think Cook's a good play, but I don't think if we're not worried about price, and they're priced so closely that we probably aren't very worried about price, and I think it's pretty easy. C-Mac.
That's where I'm at too. In tournaments, obviously, you can get a little different. And, you also can make builds where you get both of them, which is a lot of fun as well. Grant, you have a take as far as that McCaffrey versus Cook?
It's McCaffrey entirely.
What about the next tier as far as Left Bell and Chubb? We talked about Walton. We mentioned Carson and passing earlier. And I know optimals are spitting out Carson, but I'm spitting them back. I'm just not playing Carson today. Maybe I'm being stubborn, or maybe I'll pivot to him later on if I need to catch up or something like that. But I just don't like the play. I don't like the spot as far as that game. I don't think he's going to be efficient. Maybe he falls in the end zone twice, so be it. But as of right now, I'm not really on Carson. Grant, next tier, what do you have?
It's probably Bell being my favorite, followed by Chubb. Bell, he hasn't been good recently. There's a squeaky wheel narrative that you like to talk about so often.
Thanks for stealing that from me.
No, I gave you credit.
Go ahead, continue.
Bell, he's going to be involved in the passing game. He has some big upside here. This is the worst defense in the league in Miami. So Bell is probably number one. And then Chubb is probably one of the best running backs in the league going up against a team that is not very good on the offensive end, I would assume, this week. So they're probably going to be running the ball a decent amount. Granted, Denver has an all right run defense, but Chubb is still a guy that doesn't matter who he's playing against. He can break off an 80-yard run at any given time here. So it's Bell, it's Chubb, then big drop to Carson and Jones.
I like both those guys a good bit as far as Bell and Chubb. You sort of spelled it out. And also, for Chubb on the other side, we talked about Brandon Allen being the quarterback for Denver. And, this is not somebody that's highly touted. He's in there because what's his name? Just basically spoke out and they gave him a neck injury. I forget. It's the elite quarterback. I forget his name already. The title, help me
Ryan
out.
Fitzpatrick?
No, that's
Flacco.
not. Joe Flacco. There you go. They just said, yeah, he's got a neck. He's done for the year. Brandon Allen all of a sudden stepping in, and he could be an absolute disaster there. Maybe turns the ball over a couple times, and Chubb is well positioned to score. Maybe get a couple.
Maybe he pulls a Kyle Allen or a Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Kyle Allen's not good either, by the way. Just
the first week he was.
Oh yeah, I mean, and these guys can be good in a 1 week sample, sure.
Yeah, and you're getting one at a 4.1K sample size. All the quarterbacks that are rookies that seem to start their first week just off to a hot start.
Are you playing many Brandon Allen shares today?
Yes, we've talked about this many times.
Okay. Tuttle, what do you have for me as far as Bell versus Chubb? Love them both. You can only roster so many running backs, only 3, obviously. Well, it depends on where you're playing. 3 on Yahoo, 3 on DK, 3 on FanDuel. Your preference, Bell versus Chubb, basically the same price.
I think there's actually a big enough price gap to let the site do the talking for you. DraftKings, play Chubb. There's a $700 difference. Bell's $500 cheaper, I think, on Yahoo. Chubb's $1,100 more on FanDuel, so go Bell. I like both. Chubb, if they were priced similarly, I would take Chubb all the time, but I think Bell provides a decent enough discount on FanDuel where I think he's the play.
Are you with me on this not being Carson's week?
Yeah, I don't love it, but you mentioned it, and I think we mentioned it at the top of the show. He's cheap on Yahoo specifically. He's real cheap. Where I think you can play him there. Don't feel great about it, but he's cheap.
Work your way down. Who else is popping for you as far as running backs?
I do like some of these guys in the mid-range that aren't going to have a whole lot of ownership. I think Josh Jacobs makes a great leverage play off Waller, who's going to be extremely heavily owned. I think Derek Carr. Early in the week, we had Derek Carr actually projected as one of the higher-owned quarterbacks on the slate. I think he'll still see some decent ownership. So I do like Jacobs as a leverage play. Oakland wants to run the ball a lot, and that's the preferred method of attack. It's a good matchup for Jacobs. You can see 20 to 30 carries for him, and I think he's a good play. Pretty much exact same reasoning for Marlon Mack on a team that wants to run the ball. Matchup is better on the ground. He's going to see 20 carries. I think he's a good play. He doesn't have a whole lot of involvement in the passing game, which Jacobs doesn't as well, obviously. But I think both guys are candidates for multi-scores and 100-plus yards, which keeps them on the radar for GPP.
So 20 carries for Max, so 21 opportunities? Is that what we're looking at, basically?
Pretty much, yeah.
Why can't you catch a football? I don't understand. It drives me nuts. Grant, we're kind of working our way down here as far as running backs. Feel free to add on any of those guys or add somebody new. Thoughts?
Derrick Henry going up against Carolina. Not
Speaking
great
of
for
running backs that catch footballs.
Yeah, well, if you go for 170 yards, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Correct. No, I agree.
Yeah, so Derrick Henry going up against Carolina. Carolina has been good versus the run. They've been very good versus the pass. I don't think they're going to really rely on Tannehill throwing the ball when they can just rely on Henry running the ball. So I really like Henry here. Lindsey going up against Cleveland, not the worst idea in the world, not the best idea in the world, but his price tag of 5.3K. It's not terrible. Jordan Howard, revenge, going up against Chicago, more a little bit more, what's it called, susceptible to the run than they are to the pass. And you can get some dump offs to Howard, even though they're generally going to not dump the ball off to Howard too much. But I think Sproles is out in this game. Is that correct? No, he's playing.
I think he's expected back as well as Djax.
Yeah, I know Djax is back. I couldn't remember on Sproles, but still Howard at 5.1K. We've seen him go for 3 touchdowns before this season. We saw him last week go for 23 carries. He's gradually increased his carries pretty much every single week, and he's slightly involved in the receiving game. So we could see a big game out of him for very little ownership and very little price.
In Tuttle, when we kind of go down there as far as the cheapies, this is why we had the conversation as far as pivots, away from Samuel. There's just not anybody there outside of Walton for Miami. And, I guess you kind of got to ask yourself the question of, like, do running backs matter? Does talent matter? Because he seems like a running back does not have a lot of talent. Of course, opportunity is the most important thing. And with, Drake gone, he took, 85% of the snaps last week or so for Miami. He seems to be the number one guy there for what it's worth. So he'll get plenty of opportunity, maybe 18 touches or so or something like that. So I don't mind him. But otherwise, there's not a lot going on here. Melvin Gordon is super cheap. And, there's been speculation that the new OC, maybe they're going to try to run the ball, but who knows how well that's going to go. And Gordon, probably a bigger name than an actual talent for what it's worth. There's not a lot for me. I'm having a hard time getting excited. The people in chat are asking about the Denver running backs, and it's still a bit of a split, and I just don't trust that offense is going to move very well because of the aforementioned quarterback change.
And it's not like they're going to rely more heavily on the run.
Well, they are, but the defense knows this, and they're going to put 12 guys in the box.
Which just leads the way for Deshaun Hamilton, your favorite wide receiver.
It's a 5-yard penalty, actually.
This is a pretty good troll week for Deshaun.
Oh, man. I you know what?
Gosh.
Achievement unlocked. I put up 190 last week with Deshaun Hamilton. I'm not playing. Never again.
Why would you play him last week and not this week?
I don't know. Dude, it doesn't matter. Scoreboard, I cashed, but it could have been a lot more fun. Jump in here, Tuttle, because again, there's not a lot to say here as far as the cheap running backs, is there?
No. We talked about it. Mark Walton's the guy. He is the option off of Jalen Samuels. I think you could actually, if you wanted to go high priced at wide receiver on DraftKings, I think you could look at some builds that pair both Samuels and Walton. I don't think it's really necessary given the slate, but there's no cheapie that I would like to go with. We mentioned Denver's offense. I just don't think they're going to move a whole lot. Yes, they'll potentially be more reliant on the run game, but it's not like there's a whole lot of room for improvement on that. Both these guys are already seeing plenty of touches. Both these guys, I think Broncos have a top 10 rush rate in the league. So it's not like there's a ceiling to how much more they can actually run the ball. And efficiency is obviously a huge problem there. Both are seeing pretty much 50% of the touches, 50% of the snaps. So you're banking on basically one of those guys breaking a long touchdown. If that's what you're banking on, then Phillip Lindsay's obviously the better option of the two.
I see Bobby in the chat mentioning Singletary. He can be kind of sort of somewhat interesting, and he saw a nice little jump as far as snaps last week. And people like the correlation of running backs with defense. I don't mind that. Devin Singletary, I think he's worth a look.
Why have we not talked about Tariq Cohen?
Because he hasn't done anything since 1972.
Yeah, it's not like he's had double-digit targets twice this year, and he hasn't broken off a big run for a touchdown, which we saw, 5 times last year? What are the odds that Tariq Cohen breaks off a run big enough to completely outscore Jalen Samuels?
3%?
Yeah, that seems a little bit low considering he's done it, 10 times in his career of 3 years?
No, he hasn't.
Going to the board.
That's just not true. None of that was true. All that was false information.
What
you could play him, I suppose, but and there's also a value to that running back spot where he's essentially a receiver.
His role has just continually decreased, and
he had 12 targets 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and it's decreased the last week when they just jammed Montgomery the whole game.
Yeah, because they were ahead that game. What if they aren't going to be ahead next game?
Which is the exact same argument you would use. Who were we just talking about that I was looking at? Which is the exact same argument. Singletary.
Last year, 7 receptions, 120 yards, touchdown. 7 receptions, 90 yards. 8 receptions, 69 yards, touchdown. 1 reception, 70 yards, touchdown. 12 receptions, 156 yards. 5 receptions, 31 yards, touchdown. So that's what? 6 times last year? 6 out of
10.
16?
It's definitely not 10.
Oh, that was just 1 year. Do you want me to go back to the prior year?
No, I really don't. I want you to talk about receivers, please.
Well, if it's 10, are you going to admit defeat?
Yeah, sure. Retroactively. Do it after the show.
All right, there's 2 more, so it was 8. Plus a passing touchdown.
Well, there you go. What are you doing at receiver this week, Grant?
I really like the Carolina wide receivers. I've liked them all week, but are they going to be chalky is kind of where –
a little bit.
Yeah, but, I mean, are they going to be really chalky?
You know, Grant, if only we had somebody that projected ownership that can help point us in the right direction.
I mean, whether or not those are entirely accurate, it's kind of a crapshoot, and it's a tough week to determine things because –
Is that shots fired? What just happened there?
No, Jamino does a great job, but there's always a margin for error, and any number of things can happen. We're mostly incorporating what we hear from other touts, other websites, what we hear from basically just our point of view, and you can't fully incorporate the non-art point of view into things. So there's always random people that don't know much about football that are going to be playing a large volume of lineups, not them singularly, but them as a collective are going to be playing a large volume of lineups over on DraftKings. So it's almost impossible to fully determine. Granted, we are more accurate than most, and it could end up being around 10 to 12%, but the margin for error, much like everything, is roughly around 8%, so they could be as high as 20.
On Yahoo, I'm seeing Samuel at 7%. I'm seeing Moore at 6%. Moore is a really good price on FanDuel, so he's going to be higher than that on DK. We're probably sharing this on the screen as well, too, I assume. Samuel's at 13% on DK, and I think Moore is somewhere in that, 10%. So, I mean, it's always a question of, like, what do you think is chalky? Because that's always, like, a very general concept. Like, to me, that's not chalky. I'm not running away from it. Like, I can't play a guy because he's 15%. Like, that's not the way I look at things. I think if you like him, play him, Grant, is sort of my analysis on that.
Well, if you look at ownership this week, you'll see it spread out because, like we said at the top of the show, there's no slam dunk wide receiving option here. It's pretty spread out ownership. So I don't think you're fading any receiver this week based on ownership.
Hey, Tuttle, you like Evans or Godwin? If you can predict one of those guys, if you look at like their best week, the best of the two, I mean, it's every one of them's like in the optimal lineup. Like one of those two, Tampa Bay receiver. Who's going to be the guy this week?
I'll go Godwin, but the other question is in your Jameis stacks, can he support both?
Yes,
he hasn't all year. I don't think it's happened all year.
2 weeks ago, it wasn't bad.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Evans was like at 20, that's probably not enough to win like large field tournaments, but potentially higher stake, lower entry tournaments you could win with 2020 from that.
Jamino's cracking me up, and he just took a what a great line from Jamino in the chat. Good times there. That's the thing though, Tuttle. Like a lot of the big name receivers, of course, aren't playing this week either. No Thomas. Hopkins is playing an early game. We do get Devontae Adams back this week, and I think he's going to people are probably going to be like wait and see mode, but he's an excellent play for tournaments. You're a Packers guy. Are we unleashing Adams, or we're waiting a week, or what?
I'm torn because everything would say to not play him. Matchup's not good against Casey Hayward, coming off injury, but I think he's you can make the case that I think he's still the top candidate. It's either him or Aaron Jones. If you're stacking Phil Rivers with some of his receivers, then I think you have to bring it back with Adams or Aaron Jones.
Who's your favorite Chargers receiver?
I mean, Keenan.
Factoring salary as well?
Yeah. Keenan's cheap enough now. There's not a huge gap between them on DraftKings.
Grant, your favorite Chargers receiver, you confirm or deny?
It's probably Allen. I think more people will flock over to Mike Williams, and Allen's had 10 targets in each of his last 2 games. Just hasn't worked out well because of the matchup. And people say, like, Oh, he hasn't been great recently. In Miami's first bad game of the year, he got a 70-yard touchdown call back. And then he's faced Denver, Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and Chicago. So he hasn't had good matchups. And now he's going up against Green Bay, which gives him a huge amount of upside. I love Keenan Allen today.
Same question, Grant. Seattle?
Seattle, I'm probably going with DK, although that's just because my favorite player in the league, Josh Gordon, isn't playing yet.
Yeah, he's going to be a hell of a blocker there for Seattle. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can't play him in cash, I don't think, but I like him for tournaments because what is he going to get, 5 or 6 targets? You can't really rely on a lot of targets there. Of course, all he needs is one to justify that roster spot. Tuttle, your favorite Seattle receiver?
I think Metcalf is probably too expensive now, so I'll go Lockett.
Well, both those guys are kind of expensive, and like Galladay's too expensive, right? I don't know. A lot of these prices
not too expensive outside of the 4K range guys.
Well, that's why the Carolina guys are going to be like a default cash game plays. I'm also looking at the Jarvis Landry in cash potentially in some spots, maybe. Look, I'm not happy about it, but I know.
Yeah, he's in play on DK specifically.
Yeah, I think you can play him on FanDuel as well. He's like 5.5 over there or something like that. Wait, is that I think so. Well, on Yahoo, I think he's like $15. I want to say.
And I mean, Antonio Callaway is going to score the long touchdown, but
does that happen? Not Beckham, Callaway? Is that the one in 150?
That's my terrible take week.
There it is.
The week, Antonio Callaway.
Who else is like interesting? Oh, Dolphins Jets receivers. Give me your favorite.
Yeah, all
great.
of them.
That's
all of them. Preston Williams, Demarius Thomas, Robbie Anderson, Jamison Crowder, and Devontae Parker. All very much in play.
But rank those guys. Who's most interesting?
Number 1, Williams. Number 2, Thomas. Number 3, Parker. Number 4, Crowder. Number 5, Robbie Anderson. Although Robbie Anderson is more in play in tournaments than he is in cash.
Tuttle?
Yeah, I would put Robbie as if we're talking tournaments, then it would be Robbie is the top Jets guy.
Are we ever going to get a John Brown week? Is that ever going to happen? Tuttle? Like, is he going to get that smash spot against Washington? My issue is, hey, we were talking about Bill Simmons pre-show. I feel like this might be a Milton Berle game for Buffalo. Just doing just enough to win, but you don't have to show off too much. Just show just enough to take the victory.
Haven't they done that a lot? Didn't they do that against the Dolphins?
They don't need to do anything against Washington. Washington's got a team total of like 13 or something like that.
They had to do something against Miami, so who says they don't have to do something versus Washington?
Well, okay, the point still stands is that Brown's still yet to have like one big explosion play all season long.
Yeah.
It should come.
Yeah,
well, I'm sure you're going to pull stats from 4 years ago when he was in high school or whatever.
Well, it's not like he plays over in Buffalo. It's not like he's had some bad matchups. It's not like they've had game scripts that go against him. It's not like the weather in certain games has been absolutely terrible for deep threats. But, yeah, you're right. Let's just go exactly.
Is it happening today is what I'm asking. Is today the day it happens?
I mean, I think there's just as good a chance as any that it happens today.
Like he's in the conversation for me, more so for tournaments. So I guess, yeah, I don't think he's a cash game play necessarily just because of the way the salaries work.
I mean, he's had 10 points almost every single week, and he gets a decent matchup here.
Yeah, he's turned into like Jarvis Landry as far as his game log, which is
he gets 10 points every single week. You're just looking for that game where he breaks off a big one, in which case you get 10 points plus a 100-yard bonus plus 6 more points for a touchdown plus 7 more points for yards. That adds 10 plus 15. That's 25 there. It's literally the difference between 10 and 25 is one catch.
Yes. I understand the math.
Do you? Do you? I know you weren't a very good teacher.
Tuttle, who have we missed here as far as receivers that we should talk about? We're kind of glossed over maybe.
I mean, I don't think we missed anybody.
Allen Robinson?
Yeah. Robinson.
For the matchups matter, people, yeah. Is
it matchups matter? It's not.
You say that so condescendingly, by the way. I like that.
He's had massive volume all season long.
Yeah, he's the only one that's getting any sort of volume from the Bears. It's not like he's cheap is the problem.
But neither is anybody else, which you've already established, right? And you can't take the salary home with you. Like there's no bonus for saving $2K.
Yeah, there is.
You got to delegate it somewhere.
It's a self-pride bonus.
What was the site that – wasn't there a site that was going to do that?
Grant's played all the dark alleys of every DFS site, so I'm sure he recalls if that was ever a thing.
It might not have been. Maybe I made that up.
There was one where you can spend more.
Vic
there was one where you're allowed to spend
or
more than the
something.
cap and you get to give up some
Victive do it?
points.
I think was it Victive? I don't think it was Victive. I think it was. Wasn't Fantasy Up? Wasn't Fan? Oh gosh, which one was it?
There was a site.
No, there absolutely was. You are
It's definitely something we can
correct.
do on a different show, at a different time.
Oh gosh.
So there was one where you can spend more than the cap, and you have to give up some points, some equity in points. But that's a whole other conversation. And kind of interesting.
Marvin Jones is cheap in some places.
Yes, he's cheap on Yahoo. He's cheap on FanDuel. I think you play him in both those spots. Do you like either of the cheap Chicago receivers? Am I just trying to make Miller happen? Am I trying to make Gabriel happen, or just not so much? Doesn't sound like it.
Not really, no. Miller of the two.
We forgot to talk about one guy.
Who?
Oh, gosh.
He hasn't had a game without a touchdown this season where he's played.
Okay. Is it Deshaun Jackson?
Well, no, I don't think he's had a game without playing the full game where he got 2 touchdowns, but it is Tyrell Williams in one of the highest totals on the board. He's still projected for decent ownership, but he's the main guy in that offense. He's the main target out at wide receiver. He hasn't been in the offense much in the last 3 weeks, considering he missed 2 of them. He's a guy that gets a decent volume of targets. It's a guy that can break off a huge run. It's a guy that can give you a bunch of upside at his 5.9K price tag on DraftKings and $20 over on FanDuel.
All right, let's finish up this conversation as far as receivers, because I want to turn it over to the people. I think it's a much more entertaining show and probably more informative too. We're just kind of answering the people, the questions in chat, which you can kind of like lean into other conversations. Tuttle, unless you have anything else to say as far as receivers, feel free to open up tight ends.
Nothing more to add about wide receivers, tight ends. This Darren Waller feather has been pretty good. I kind of bashed Matt Moore earlier. But I think in spots where Travis Kelce's price tag has come down, I think he's an interesting option. He's real cheap on FanDuel. I mean, he's right at the same price range as Waller. But Kelce will be a lot lower owned than Waller. So I do think Kelce's in play where they're similarly priced. Cheap guys, you're probably looking at the Colts. You're looking at Doyle. You're looking at Ebron. Doyle's the one that's getting all of the talk, but Ebron is going to be, I think, the higher upside player of the two. We've seen his touchdown equity in the past. I think Doyle is the kind of the receptions floor guy, but Ebron has the touchdown upside. Ertz.
Ertz is $16 on Yahoo, and he's 4.7 on DK. And you can make the argument that the field will be opened up to some degree with Djax. Maybe Ertz gets a little more clean. As far as his looks, they can't double team as likely, and maybe they'll run less 2 tight end sets, and that hits Goddard more than Ertz. I suppose that's one way to look at it. And I'm leaning. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm not thrilled about it just because he's been bad, but we know he's super talented, and I'm sure Grant will tell you 4 years ago he had like 7 explosion games. Grant, what are you doing here as far as tight ends?
Talking about a guy that's had some explosion games, Brait. That Brait guy explodes for touchdowns.
Okay.
I just wanted to say explode like 4 or 5 times. Ertz, like Deshaun Jackson coming back in the lineup. Yes, Ertz may end up getting more volume because they may run more 2 tight end sets. Waller, we already mentioned, he's probably the top option. Kelce, I'm going to go back to it again because I looked in the numbers more after Tuttle tried to shut me down. 13th in fantasy points allowed to tight ends. You didn't really look at the target numbers and the reception numbers. It's strictly the touchdown numbers that weren't really there for tight ends, but they were getting massive volumes. When Ertz and Goddard played him, I think they combined for about 14. Waller had about 14, and then they've had a few matchups against bad tight ends. It's a perfect spot for Kelce, who's due for some positive regression, who's due for some touchdown regression, who's gotten a touchdown in every game Matt Moore started, I believe. So Kelce's a guy that I'm definitely looking at when so many people are going to pay down a wide receiver, pay down a tight end. It's a decent contrarian play, and he's probably going to come in at around 10% ownership there. Outside of them, I mean, you can take a shot on Noah Fant, like rookie quarterbacks or quarterbacks making the first start tend to rely a little bit too much on tight ends. Could do something. I already mentioned Doyle, but like my favorite guys are probably Ertz, Waller, Brait, and Kelce.
Yeah, I don't hate Fant as a punt just because tight ends kind of sort of gross, and there's a path where like none of the top tight ends necessarily smash. It's certainly possible, or you don't need any one particular, and Fant can put up like 12, and that's good enough in theory. He also go put up 0. Like the floor is 0 on a guy like Fant. Defenses, Tuttle, are we doing our best to get Buffalo in here, or just within the role of salary cap? Not a lot of value plays, so we're just kind of going to go cheap and hopefully things work out for us.
Yeah, I mean, Bill's obviously top raw projection option. And then it depends which site you're playing on. Yahoo, I noticed, I kind of already mentioned, I think the Colts control the game against Pittsburgh. So I do like Colts. They're the absolute min price on Yahoo. They would be my defensive choice there if trying to save at the position. DraftKings, I don't think I can do the Redskins. I know people are going to play them just because they're below the 2K salary floor that we've typically seen, but I don't think I can go that low. If I'm going cheap, I'm probably trying to end up in that Carolina Panthers range, so that $2,800 range on DraftKings. And then my GPP defense, if you have the money and you can get up to them, I like the Cleveland Browns. Really good sack matchup for them. Obviously, Allen's a bit of an unknown as well as in terms of turnovers. So I like Browns quite a bit as the tournament option.
I was going to say Cleveland on Yahoo is $12. If I can get those $2 extra, I like Cleveland there a good bit. And if I can't get the Buffalo, and I agree, the Colts are pretty solid at $10 as well. Start letting up questions there in chat. If you guys asked a question previously, I probably missed it. So feel free to ask it again. If you guys are on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. You guys are asking questions over there. We're going to do our best to pull them and throw them here in the chat as well. Grant, you have anything to add there as far as defense, or it's basically the same thoughts, or what? And Grant's on mute, I believe, maybe.
Son of a biscuit.
Yeah,
on our sponsored site, Yahoo, you can play the highest scoring defense in NFL history thus far, New England Patriots.
Yeah, just ignored them, which is probably a mistake.
Yeah, just lock them in. Just take your free 25 points and move on.
Yeah, that's certainly sustainable.
I mean, it's been sustainable for half the season. If they score 0 points the rest of the season, then I mean they're still one of the better defenses in the league from a DFS perspective.
Anybody else to add there, Grant, or shall we turn it up to the chat and answer some questions for the people?
Let's answer
season long only.
Season long only. You're going to specialize in that for sure. Let me ask this: do you have a favorite stack or favorite correlation play, Tuttle?
Correlation, I do like Browns, Chubb. Sneaky stack, I do like the Dolphins game. I like both sides of that.
I don't think I asked you that. I just asked Grant. Who's your favorite tournament play in that game?
Tournament, I like Preston.
And which quarterback do you want to run out there? I guess it's Fitzpatrick, if you like Preston?
Yeah, I like Fitzpatrick. I think I do like both sides, though, but Fitzpatrick offers a nice discount.
Grant, all the same questions.
Phillip Rivers to Keenan Allen. I don't remember the rest of your questions.
That's good enough. Well, let's knock out some questions from chat. Grant, you're batting first. Tuttle, you're batting second. Grant, we have the Browns versus the Panthers.
Probably the Browns.
This one is ambitious, Tuttle. We live in the world of a salary cap. FanDuel tournaments, Fant versus Hollister, who I believe plays tight end for the Seattle team.
Fant.
Yeah, but you don't sound enthused.
No, I think
the winner.
That's Fant pretty easily.
Grant,
as somebody that has looked into wanting to play Hollister with Russell Wilson stacks, when you're running less routes than Luke Wilson, you're probably not going to be much of an option.
Grant, we got a twofer for Cash, Chubb, and Preston Williams versus Walton and Godwin.
Chubb, Preston Williams.
I can't read that question. It's like 4 different guys.
And you taught our kids can't even read.
Well, I understand. It's not like separated. Italian Mamba, ask that question again if you don't mind. I got a twofer for Cash for you, Tuttle. Russ and Lockett. So the combination there for Seattle versus Godwin and Stafford. This is Cash.
How can you not read that,
Godwin.
team?
It's Russ Lockett, but I love Godwin.
Read the question, Grant.
It's DK Cash, Cook and Marvin or Mike Williams, Bell and Keenan Allen, or Chubb and A-Rob.
Okay, so it's one
probably
of three
Bell
options.
and Keenan Allen.
All right, there you go. Knocked it out. Grant, what is the What is the one wide receiver you're starting cash builds with outside of the Panthers receivers?
I don't know. Because I'm starting it with the Panthers wide receivers.
Tuttle, is it Jarvis Landry?
What was the question? Sorry.
What is the one wide receiver you're starting cash game builds with outside of Panthers receivers? So basically, get rid of the Panthers and now cash game receivers that you like. Godwin's great. I don't know if I can get there in cash. I get it. If you can make it work, sure. But Jarvis Landry is probably my answer.
I think that's the answer for DraftKings. FanDuel, you could justify like Tyrell. Is it kind of a little bit more expensive, but it's kind of same price range. Marvin Jones is also kind of that same price range.
Landry is $15. I'm pulling up my Yahoo team. He's $15. Marvin Jones is $18. I like that one as well too, if you can get there. Let's see. DK Metcalf, they're talking about him being the tight end. Not just yet, the tight end.
They'll be running a lot of 2 tight end sets with DK Metcalf and Josh Gordon.
Who's your favorite wide receiver value play, Grant? Which is kind of the same question, but not exactly.
It's probably Curtis Samuel, or is that good? Sorry, DJ Moore.
Yeah, I like Moore a good bit too, and of course it's one of the guys from the Miami Jets game, which it's hard to sort of project, but we feel like they're all cheap enough that at least one or two is going to get there. We got Crane in the chat saying it's Devontae Parker season. Is that? Can you confirm that, Tuttle? Is it Devontae Parker season?
I like that game. I think deciding between Parker and Preston Williams is who knows what's going to happen anyway, so go for it.
I think I have Preston, but I don't feel good about it. That's sort of where I'm at right now as far as deciding between those two. We got a twofer for you. This is for Tuttle. This is Matt Moore and Ertz. It doesn't specify as far as tournaments or cash. Matt Moore and Ertz versus Winston and Brait. So the Tampa Bay connection there.
Matt Moore, Ertz.
You got any love for Jordan Howard there, Grant?
I already went through it. Yes.
I'm just reading the question, man. I don't think it's love. It's okay, but not love. But yeah,
he's 5.1. He's getting 20 plus carries probably.
Yeah, he doesn't catch the ball though. I don't think he gets 20 carries.
Again, Dean, if you get 100 yards and a touchdown, it really doesn't matter that much.
Pick one of these terrible tight ends, Tuttle. Brait, Fant, or Doyle.
That's Doyle.
Grant, for FanDuel Cash, this is a twofer. We got Cook and Doyle versus Chubb and Ertz.
Chubb and Ertz.
Tuttle, Goddard or Greg Olsen?
Olsen.
This is for anyone. Anyone playing Sam Darnold?
I like that game.
Is that a yes? Maybe? Possibly?
I like that game.
Does anybody know if it's Evans or Godwin?
It's more likely Godwin, but it can be either. Play one of them in every lineup.
Yeah, that's not a terrible idea. Just chop them 50-50 and have
worked every time this year.
Yeah, well, one of the two has got there most every week, if not every week.
Every single week this year outside of week 1, and there's been 2 weeks where both of them have got there.
And one got hurt, of course. I guess they put up like a 0 spot or something like that. Tuttle, cash quarterback on FanDuel. Is it Carr, Stafford, or Winston?
Let me bring up my ranks here. I think I got them right here.
Grant, as he's doing that, pick two of these guys, Carson, Eckler, or Samuels.
Carson Samuels.
Amendola versus Landry for cash. Amendola's been 18 targets or something like that the last 2 weeks or so.
Landry and Winston is the answer for the other one.
Grant, do you have a toothache? What a random question.
I have teeth grinding issues. Probably sees me pushing on my jaw fairly often.
Hey, Grant, single entries. A couple guys we haven't really talked about. We kind of grazed over Holiday. Holiday versus Hill, and nobody's playing Hill today. Just throwing it out there. Nobody's going to play him.
Holiday, celebrate. Hill.
Holiday.
I got a twofer for you, Tuttle. Godwin and Ertz versus Waller and Lockett. This is for cash.
Yes.
Is that just like a coin toss, 51-49 for you?
Yeah, give it to me one more time, but both are good options.
Yeah, Godwin, Ertz versus Waller, Lockett.
Waller, Lockett. But both are good.
Hey, how about Diggs versus Thielen? Who's got a take on that?
Diggs.
Yeah, I'm going to take the guy without the hamstring issues.
Yeah, we assume he's going to play, but who knows if he's going to struggle or not. I love how the phrasing of this question, honest opinion on Preston Williams and cash, as if all the other ones we're just throwing shade and just trying to I think you can play Preston Williams and cash on Yahoo. He may actually be in some of my cash game lineups right now because he's super cheap over there, $13, just $3 above the floor. So I think you can do it. I don't feel great about it, but I like the rest of my lineup. So there you go. That's where I'm at. I'll answer that question. Can you play CMC and a Carolina receiver in the same lineup, Tuttle?
Yes.
I believe you can as well. FanDuel Cash, Grant, Winston versus Stafford.
Stafford.
All right. You said that with lots of confidence.
Well, I elongated it for every turnover Winston's going to have.
You're building suspense with the people. So, Tuttle, we have Rivers and the Jets versus Russ Wilson and Washington. Eesh.
Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, Washington, I know is super cheap, and they'll say Allen will give up some sacks, they'll give up, some turnovers, but also I don't know how much they're going to be pressed to do stuff. So maybe he doesn't feel the need to chuck the ball down the field for 50 yards after the game is over. But it's football; anything can happen, and maybe they're behind by 10 in the third quarter. Who really knows? Grant, we got to step aside and get out of here for the premium shows. We got tip and pick, we have cards, we have Britt warming up in the pen, JSU later on. If you guys are premium members, feel free to ask some questions there as well. I take you guys all up the lock. Do want to thank our sponsor today, Yahoo. As of right now, the baller still 23% overlay, $10 to jump in there. $250K is the prize pool, $25K as far as if you think it. If you guys finish first, Grant, finish strong. Give me a good take.
Rivers to Allen takes down the Millie.
Tuttle, see it and raise it.
Antonio Callaway.
That's a fold, man. That's not a raise.
Antonio Callaway gets touchdown over 50 yards.
All right. Fair enough. He's Tuttle. Maybe 50-50 shot. I'm pointing in the wrong direction. He's Tuttle. He's Grant. I'm Dean for sure. 100%. That's it. Enjoy your football. We're out of here. Holler.
See you, kids.